Chapter 675. Looking at the unscathed Li Changsheng, Zhao Xiaojie finally understood how terrifying Li Changsheng was. If he still thought that he had a slight chance of winning by using his Dharma artifact, this thought was completely shattered. Li Changsheng was so strong that his body couldn't help but tremble. He knew the power of his Dharma artifact best, but he couldn't even hurt Li Changsheng at all. Was Li Changsheng still human? If even the stargazing pavilion master, Zhao Xiaojie, felt fear, the others could only despair. 4 Vajra realm martial experts couldn't do anything to Li Changsheng even when they worked together. Instead, they were defeated by Li Changsheng one by one. The stargazing pavilion had used all their trump cards, but there was no suspense in the outcome. Zhao Xiaojie was now staring at Li Changsheng, and his hand that was holding the wooden sword was trembling slightly. At this moment, Li Changsheng suddenly took a step forward. What are you trying to do? Zhao Xiaojie raised the wooden sword in his hand. He didn't dare to attack Li Changsheng, but he also didn't want to let Li Changsheng continue to move forward. Who are you to ask what I'm trying to do? Li Changsheng took another step forward. The entire courtyard seemed to tremble. Immediately after, the wooden sword in Zhao Xiaojie's hand was hit by an invisible air wave. Crack! It was directly broken into 2 from the middle. Zhao Xiaojie's body also took 3 steps back and spat out a mouthful of blood. It was too terrifying. Everyone could feel their hearts pounding. Since when did a Vajra realm martial expert become so weak and vulnerable? Zhao Xiaojie wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and his eyes were filled with helplessness. Li Changsheng's display of strength was getting stronger and stronger, to the point that he felt like he was an ant looking at a giant tree, as if he was looking at an ant. Thump! 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 Li Changsheng continued to step forward. Every step was like a huge drum in Zhao Xiaojie's heart lake. With every step, Zhao Xiaojie's qi and blood were surging. Finally, when Li Changsheng took the 4th step, Zhao Xiaojie spat out a mouthful of blood again, and his entire body became dispirited. Li Changsheng was like the Grim Reaper who was demanding his life. I was wrong, Mr. Li. Please forgive me. Finally, Zhao Xiaojie couldn't take it anymore and lowered his arrogant head, because he knew that if he allowed Li Changsheng to continue, Li Changsheng wouldn't even need to make a move. Li Changsheng would be shocked to death. Wrong? Isn't it a little too late? Li Changsheng's body. Li's when he's his inz's when he's in the next second. Li's his palm. Crack! Crack! At that moment, Zhao Xiaojie spat out another mouthful of blood and staggered backward. He staggered backward and finally stood firm. However, his eyes were filled with desolation. Li Changsheng, you're so ruthless. Zhao Xiaojie gritted his teeth and said. Li Changsheng's S had broken his martial arts foundation. In the future, his martial arts realm would regress and fall out of the Vajra realm. For a martial artist, this was no different from killing him. And you Jianghe, you can't tell right from wrong. I can't let you off easily. Li Changsheng raised his palm and pressed it down. Yu Jianghe's 7 orifices were bleeding in an instant. He knelt on the ground with a plop. When Li Changsheng's zest dissipated, Yu Jianghe's eyes were filled with despair. This had also damaged his martial arts foundation. At this point, all the experts above the elder level of the stargazing pavilion had received the punishment they deserved. The remaining people of the stargazing pavilion all looked at Li Changsheng with fear. The stargazing pavilion was a big sect in the north. These people were usually high and mighty. Now, one person had suppressed the entire sect. If this news were to spread, it would be shocking. The people of the stargazing pavilion were ungrateful and deserved to be punished. Li Changsheng waved his sleeve, and a surge of genuine qi swept out in all directions. In an instant, except for Han Tianlong and Han Yuma, all the other disciples of the stargazing pavilion were sent flying. They all coughed up blood and fell to the ground. At this point, only Li Changsheng, Tong Xian, and Han Tianlong were left standing in the courtyard. Benefactor. Han Tianlong opened his mouth, but didn't know what to say. He didn't expect the end result to be like this. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng ignored him. Instead, he looked at the people of the stargazing pavilion lying on the ground and said indifferently, "Get lost. If I see another disciple of the stargazing pavilion in the courtyard within 5 minutes, I'll send him out of this world forever." After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he walked into the house with Tong Xian and closed the door. From the beginning to the end, he didn't prevent Tong Xian from witnessing such a bloody scene because he knew that as his disciple, Tong Xian would often face such scenes in the future. The so-called growth was nothing but helplessness. After bearing too much, it would become natural. After Li Changsheng entered the house, the disciples of the stargazing pavilion left one by one in a sorry state. The elders who were severely injured were also carried away. This time, the stargazing pavilion had lost all face. The entire sect was trampled under one person's foot. They would surely learn from their mistakes and remember it well. However, with Zhao Xiaojia's martial arts foundation destroyed, the strength of the stargazing pavilion would drop significantly. Moreover, because the Vajra realm expert was injured, the stargazing pavilion would lose the qualification to compete for the divine item of Mount Xianwang. After leaving the courtyard, the stargazing pavilion immediately announced an order for all disciples to withdraw from Mount Xianwang. It was meaningless for them to stay. Han Tianlong and Han Yuma didn't dare to say goodbye to Li Changsheng. They were from the stargazing pavilion, and Li Changsheng was now the stargazing pavilion's #1 enemy. Unless they didn't want to stay in the stargazing pavilion in the future or directly followed Li Changsheng, they had to draw a clear line with Li Changsheng. Otherwise, if the people of the stargazing pavilion knew that they were still in contact with Li Changsheng, they wouldn't have a good life in the future. Even if they didn't come to visit Li Changsheng, in the eyes of the sect, there were still many voices that were unfavorable to them. After all, they were the ones who asked Yu Jianghe to take Li Changsheng up the mountain. Many people knew that they had a good relationship with Li Changsheng. However, the higher-ups of the stargazing pavilion kept silent about this. Zhao Xiaojia even personally summoned the father and daughter to comfort them. "You brought back the demon picture of a flood dragon crouching flame for the stargazing pavilion. This is a great merit. As for the matter with Li Changsheng, as long as you and your father don't have any contact with him, I won't pursue it." "Thank you, Master." Han Tianlong and Han Yuma saluted with gratitude. There was a lot of discussion in the sect. The father and daughter were also very nervous. After the father and daughter left, Zhong Penghai, who was a little pale, asked, "Master, the stargazing pavilion is in trouble today, all because of these two people. They have a good relationship with the devil. Why didn't you punish them?" Although they brought back the demon picture of a flood dragon crouching flame, their merits didn't make up for their mistakes. Zhao Xiaojia shook his head. "It's precisely because they have a close relationship with the devil that I didn't do anything. Otherwise, even if the stargazing pavilion is in need of people now, I would have killed them without mercy." "Master, are you afraid that they are still in contact with the devil? If we punish them, the devil will cause trouble for the stargazing pavilion?" "Yes." Zhao Xiaojia sighed. "That devil is too horrible. If you don't have full confidence, you can't provoke him easily." After the people of the stargazing pavilion left, Li Changsheng sat in the room and sighed. He had a good impression of Han Tianlong and his daughter. If the father and daughter were willing to follow him, he would definitely accept them and bring them back to the villa in the capital city. He would give them the position of protector in his newly established sect. Unfortunately, they still had deep feelings for the sect. However, Li Changsheng also knew that the father and daughter would not have a good life in the sect in the future. The onlooker sees more clearly than the person involved. Unfortunately, Han Tianlong and his daughter did not understand this. They really thought that the master of the stargazing pavilion, Zhao Xiaojia, was magnanimous and grateful. Chapter 676. The sudden withdrawal of the stargazing pavilion attracted the attention of many forces, but because the stargazing pavilion left in a hurry, not many people knew the specific reason for their departure. Li Changsheng waited quietly in the courtyard. He knew that the time for the serpent to be born was getting closer and closer. Sure enough, 2 hours later, strange phenomena began to appear between heaven and earth. Red light filled the sky, and the entire Mount Xianhuang became scorching hot. The serpent was a baby fire dragon, a top-notch fire attribute divine beast. It was destined to grow into a divine dragon in the future. In fact, it was very foolish of the sex to come to Mount Xianhuang to covet the treasures on the serpent. Although the serpent had just been born, it was not something that they could stop with their current strength. Following the appearance of the strange phenomenon, everyone, regardless of whether they were on the mountain or at the foot of the mountain, began to approach the peak. This was because, according to the calculations of the Onmyoji, the fire dragon's birth would directly break a hole from the belly of the mountain to the top of the mountain and appear in the human world. This was also known as walking through the cave. When it appeared from the top of the mountain, it would gather into a kind of general momentum that would be of great help to the future growth of the divine item. Li Changsheng also brought Tong Xian out of the courtyard and followed the crowd, walking step by step towards the peak of the mountain. Have you heard? The sect leader of the Seven Mysteries sect has also come. He is an expert who is half a step into the finger profound realm. In addition, there are many experts in the Seven Mysteries sect. This time, there's a great chance that we will be able to obtain the divine object. Along the way, Li Changsheng constantly heard people talking among the crowd. The appearance of Mount Xuanhuang's treasure had become a grand event for the cultivators of the Northern Lands. I don't think so. Although the Seven Mysteries sect's Dean Hao Nanyue is very powerful, Lu Xuanzi is also here. Someone shook his head and retorted, "Could it be the #1 rogue cultivator in the Northern Lands, Lu Xuanzi? I heard that he was already at the peak of the Vajra realm many years ago. Could he have broken through to the profound finger realm?" This caused a wave of astonishment. Not only Lu Xuanzi, but also Ing Shaoan from the Tianquin Hall and Xingwan Shan from the Mystic Yang Pavilion. They are all Vajra realm martial experts, and their reputations aren't inferior to Hao Nanyue's. With so many experts vying for the divine item, whoever obtains it will become the target of public criticism. Someone who understood the situation pointed out the problem. Indeed, with so many experts vying for supremacy, if one didn't have overwhelming strength, whoever obtained the divine object would become the target of the other sections. That's right. That divine object will definitely be divided among the various sects in the end. However, how it will be distributed at that time will depend on one's strength. The Seven Mysteries sect's sect master, Hao Nanyue, is not only powerful, but the Seven Mysteries sect is also filled with experts. If it was only Ying Xiao and from Tianquin Hall, Zhang Wenshan from Xianyang Pavilion, and the others, they would definitely not be able to defeat Hao Nanyue. However, you have all forgotten that there is one more person. He is strong enough to suppress everyone. Even Hao Nanyue does not dare to be presumptuous in front of him. When someone said this, his voice paused, but the people next to him instantly showed an expression of realization. Are you referring to Gongzu Junfeng of the White Sun Sword sect? Is he here too? If he's here, then there's really no suspense in this competition. He's definitely going to take the lion's share. When the words Gongzu Junfeng were mentioned, everyone's expression changed. White Sun Sword sect. Li Changsheng remembered this name in his heart. He did not know much about the cultivation world of the Northern Lands, but looking at everyone's expression, he knew that Gongzu Junfeng was not ordinary. Could it be a profound realm expert? Back then, the master of Mount Xianhuang, the mountain viewing tower, was a profound realm expert. He was known as the #1 cultivator in the Northern Lands. If not for the mountain viewing tower dying at the hands of Li Changsheng, even if Mount Xianhuang unearthed the treasure, no power would dare to come to Mount Xianhuang to cause trouble. However, if Gongzu Junfeng is really a profound realm expert, then I'm afraid there is no need for others to compete. White Sun Sword sect. Could it be a sword cultivator? Li Changsheng suddenly understood. Sword cultivators were known for their unparalleled offensive power. Within the same realm, they were basically invincible. Just as Li Changsheng was deep in thought, An angry voice suddenly interrupted his thoughts. "Surnamed Li, you actually dare to appear here." In the distance, a group of people majestically walked over. When the surrounding people saw this group of people, they all stepped aside with fear on their faces. It was the Grand Elder of the Seven Mysteries sect, Yang Hongba. At this moment, Yang Hongba was glaring at Li Changsheng with a face full of anger. Li Changsheng had agreed to a battle with him, but he did not expect that Li Changsheng would stand him up. Although many people cursed Li Changsheng as a gutless bandit, his foolish behavior of waiting from morning until sunset was also mocked by many people. This made him very angry, and he wanted to skin Li Changsheng alive. Yang Hongba strode over and blocked Li Changsheng's path with a cold face. The surrounding people were discussing curiously. Who is this young man? He actually offended the Grand Elder of the Seven Mysteries sect, Yang Hongba. Yang Hongba is a Vajra realm expert. I'm afraid this young man is unlucky. Look at him bringing a youth up the mountain. He doesn't even have any martial brothers beside him. He probably isn't a descendant of a famous sect. How pitiful. He clearly knows that he offended Yang Hongba, yet he still dares to come and join in the fun. Indeed, if one does not seek death, one will not die. The surrounding people pitied him, sympathized with him, and were curious. However, most of them were gloating. So it's Grand Elder Yang. Li Changsheng smiled. What? Grand Elder Yang wants to fight with me now? Facing the angry Yang Hongba, Li Changsheng's expression did not change. After returning, he had heard about the incident that day. He did not expect that the Grand Elder of the Seven Mysteries sect would foolishly wait for an entire day. You dare to stand me up? I dare to kill you here. Is that so? Then you can do it. Li Changsheng made a gesture of invitation. He had just dealt with the people of the Stargazing Pavilion and did not recommend dealing with Yang Hongba. All right. Yang Hongba clenched his fists and was about to make a move when a disciple beside him whispered, Grand Elder Yang, the sect master is already waiting at the top of the mountain. If we waste too much time here, I'm afraid the sect master will not be happy. Since this brat dares to come up the mountain, there is no need to worry about not having a chance to deal with him. Let's go up the mountain first and see the sect master, then teach him a lesson. Hearing the disciple's words, Yang Hongba's face revealed a hint of hesitation. The sect master of the Seven Mysteries sect was very prestigious. If he delayed the sect master's matters, even though he was a grand elder, he would not be able to bear the consequences. This Yang Hongba thought for a moment and said, What if we go up the mountain and he takes the opportunity to slip away? Don't worry, I will send a few people to keep an eye on him. As long as he shows signs of slipping away, they will immediately report to us. I guarantee that he will not be able to escape. All right. Yang Hongba nodded and fiercely glared at Li Changsheng. Brat, I'll let you live a little longer. After speaking, he led the group of disciples away. Chapter 677. Who is this young man? He actually dared to challenge the Seven Mysteries sect's Grand Elder. Could it be that he has an unfathomable background? But I clearly felt that Yang Hongba wanted to teach him a lesson, but because the sect master of the Seven Mysteries sect was waiting on the mountain, he restrained himself. If he really had a deep background, Yang Hongba would be afraid. He's so young, yet he has a grudge against Yang Hongba. Could it be that Li Changsheng, who challenged Yang Hongba a few days ago at the Stargazing Pavilion? Yes, it's very possible. So it's that cowardly guy? No wonder Yang Hongba was so angry. I thought he was some kind of hero. The surrounding people looked at him with disdain. Master, is that Yang Hongba very powerful? Why did they all say that you didn't dare to fight him and ran away? Although Tong Xian worshipped Li Changsheng, he was still a youth. After hearing so many people speak ill of Li Changsheng, his heart was somewhat shaken. He naturally hoped that his master was an indomitable hero, so he was very concerned about this issue. What do you think? Li Changsheng did not directly answer, but instead asked a question. I think that master shouldn't be afraid of that old man. You're right. Li Changsheng rubbed his head. He's just a stray dog on the side of the road. Master can chop off his dog head with a wave of his hand. Li Changsheng said these words without the slightest bit of concealment, and all of them fell into the ears of the surrounding people. Did you hear that? This guy is bragging. If he was really so powerful, why didn't he dare to go to the martial art competition with Yang Hongba that day? He didn't even show his face. He's just as cowardly as a mouse. The Seven Mysteries sect disciples that Yang Hongba had left behind to monitor Li Changsheng were all glaring at Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng's disrespect towards Yang Hongba made them very angry. However, even though they were angry, no one dared to rashly attack Li Changsheng. Although they all believed that Li Changsheng was not a match for Yang Hongba, he was still not someone that ordinary disciples like them could afford to provoke. After all, Li Changsheng had killed a protector and an elder of the Seven Mysteries sect. He had even forced several elders to sever their arms. In the eyes of many people in the Seven Mysteries sect, Li Changsheng was a notorious devil. Many people had already gathered at the top of the mountain. When Li Changsheng went up the mountain, the first thing he saw was Yang Hongba standing there. Beside Yang Hongba was a middle-aged man with an imposing aura. Yang Hongba was originally a Vajra realm martial expert, a dragon among men. No one would look down on him wherever he went. However, when he stood beside that middle-aged man, it was obvious that he was just a supporting role, a green leaf, while that middle-aged man was the red flower. Needless to say, Li Changsheng could already guess that the middle-aged man was the Seven Mysteries sect's sect master, Hao Nanwei. His aura was much stronger than that of the Stargazing Pavilion's pavilion master, Zhao Xiaojie. No wonder the Stargazing Pavilion was so afraid of the Seven Mysteries sect. Even though they knew that the Seven Mysteries sect had sent people to obstruct Han Tianlong and his daughter, they still chose to retreat. Just by looking at the Seven Mysteries sect's sect master, Hao Nanyue's aura was many times stronger than that of the Stargazing Pavilion's pavilion master, Zhao Xiaojie. After Li Changsheng appeared, he found an inconspicuous place to sit down and quietly waited. He knew better than anyone else the exact time when the serpent would be born. Even though there were many strange phenomena, the time was not yet ripe. When Yang Hongba saw that Li Changsheng did not take the opportunity to escape, he finally let out a sigh of relief. Although he had sent subordinates to monitor Li Changsheng, if Li Changsheng wanted to leave, ordinary disciples would not be able to stop him. If Li Changsheng escaped, and he could not catch up, then he would not be able to vent the anger in his heart. What are you looking at? Hao Nanyue saw Yang Hongba's absent-minded appearance and asked. The Seven Mysteries sect had fewer Vajra realm martial experts than the Stargazing Pavilion. There were only Yang Hongba and him. However, because he was too strong, he was able to suppress the Stargazing Pavilion and maintain the balance. This was also the reason why Yang Hongba did not dare to look for trouble when Li Changsheng lived in the side courtyard of the Stargazing Pavilion. However, because Hao Nanyue's strength was too strong, Yang Hongba, who was in the Vajra realm, was always inferior in front of her. Sometimes, he even feared this sect master. It's the guy from the Stargazing Pavilion who challenged me. He also came up the mountain. Oh, Hao Nanyue's face revealed some curiosity as she looked in the direction of Li Changsheng. You're not talking about the youth sitting on the stone, are you? That's him. Yang Hongba nodded. He's just an ordinary pawn, yet you still want to challenge him. Why don't you just kill him directly? Hearing Hao Nanyue's words, Yang Hongba lowered his head and said, he may not be as simple as he looks. After all, my Seven Mysteries sect's great guardian Yang Zheng and great elder both died at his hands. Several elders were also forced to break their arms. That's why I'm so careful. Ha! Hao Nanyue coldly snorted. Yang Hongba, do you know why the gap between your martial strength and mine is getting bigger and bigger? It's because you're not decisive enough in killing. You don't have the belief of invincibility in your heart. If you don't even believe in yourself, how can you conquer the heavens and change your fate? No matter how strong or weak he is, you should not hesitate to make a move on him. You should use him as a whetstone and step on his bones to reach the peak of martial arts. What's more, he only defeated a few elders in our sect. Others may not know, but you and I know. As long as the so-called elders and great guardians are not in the Vajra realm, they're no different from cats and dogs. How can you be afraid of someone who has injured a cat or a dog? How Nanyue's reprimand was like a blow to the head, causing Yang Hongba's body to tremble. Then his aura changed as he muttered to himself, "Yes, I should use that Li Changsheng as a whetstone and step on him to forge my invincible belief in martial arts." Good, good. How Nanyue smiled and saw that Yang Hongba was about to make a move. She said, "Since he is already at the top of the mountain, there's no need to rush. It's not good to expose your strength too early. After all, a cooked duck can't fly away." "Yes, I understand." Yang Hongba nodded and no longer looked in the direction of Li Changsheng. After Hao Nanyue's guidance, he no longer took Li Changsheng seriously. He only saw him as a stepping stone to reach the peak of martial arts. Who would see a stepping stone as important? At this moment, there was a commotion from the crowd. An elegant young master with a face as white as jade stepped onto the top of the mountain, surrounded by a group of female disciples. Tianqin Hall, Ing Shaoan. He was over 50 years old, but he looked like a handsome young man. It was said that he named himself Little Panin. In the entire northern cultivation world, he had many lovers and many female disciples who were fascinated by him. Tianqin Hall, other people established a sect to pass down their martial arts. However, in his sect, he was the only male sect master. There were close to 100 female disciples. In name, they were disciples, but in reality, they were wives and concubines. They were despised and spurned by many righteous sections. Of course, there were also many who were secretly envious of his luck with women. Chapter 678. Ing Shao, and of the heavenly destruction hall, appeared amidst the chattering of women. The Seven Mysteries sect's sect master, Hao Nanyue, took the initiative to cup his hands and greet Ing Shaoan. "Brother Ying's luck with women is monstrous. I'm nothing. How can I compare to Brother Hao, who is in charge of the Seven Mysteries sect? You have countless experts under you, and you call yourself the ancestor of the sect. A few hundred years from now, people will give Brother Hao a big thumbs up and call him a hero among men. But when they mention me, Ing Shao, and they will probably spit on me, a thief. Brother Hao's name will be immortalized for hundreds of years, while my name will go down in infamy for 10,000 years. We can't be compared." Ing Shao and held a folding fan in his hand, looking graceful and elegant. He was truly a handsome man. "Ha! Brother Ing must be joking." As the two conversed, no one else had the qualifications to interrupt. They could only laugh at the side. The people from the Profound Sun Pavilion had arrived. Ing Shaoan's gaze suddenly fell on a mountain path and saw a middle-aged man walking with majestic steps. It was the Profound Sun Pavilion's Tsang Wenshan. Unlike Ing Shao, and Tsang Wenshan was followed by two neat rows of subordinates, giving people a feeling of righteousness and righteousness. The Profound Sun Pavilion was a branch of the Confucian school. They cultivated the 13 books of spring and autumn, which was a path of extreme yang. Tsang Wenshan was one of the 72 sages under Confucius, a descendant of the sage Zhengzi. After he appeared, he cupped his hands in greeting towards the Seven Mysteries sect's Hao Nanyue. As for Ing Shao, and of the Heaven Ruins Hall, he was directly ignored. Ing Shao's actions were absurd, both righteous and evil. Tsang Wenshan, who claimed to be a righteous Confucian, disliked Ing Shaoan's actions. "Surname Tsang, don't give me such an ugly face. I don't understand. I didn't offend you, so why are you so hostile towards me?" Ing Shaoan coldly snorted. "A gentleman stays away from the kitchen because he wants to keep himself clean. Living with good people is like living in a room full of orchids, not smelling their fragrance for a long time. Living with evil people is like living in a house full of abalones, not smelling their stench for a long time. And you are that evil person. Tsing Wenshan, I didn't provoke you or provoke you, but you dare to insult me. Could it be that you want to fight?" As he spoke, Ing Shaoan rolled up his sleeves. "Do you think I'm afraid of you?" Tsing Wenshan held the judge's brush in his hand. "That's enough, the two of you. The treasure hasn't appeared yet. Don't tell me you want to fight until both sides suffer. Hao Nanwei advised. Only then did the two of them give up. As the time of the divine artifact's birth approached, more and more forces gathered at Mount Xianhuang. Look, that's Long Guanyu from the 30,000 feet mountain. He's an expert in the use of a saber. Rumor has it that he dug out Chao Min's 7-star saber back then. He's known as the Saber Grandmaster. That's Yin Yao from Sun Luo Hall. Sun Luo Hall is a great evil sect, and Yin Yao is known for his ruthlessness. Daoist Jueshin of Mount Prajna is here too. Cries of surprise could be heard from the crowd. Many people looked at him with reverence. This time, almost all the experts of the northern sects had gathered. Everyone, am I late? Hao Nanyue, Ing Xiao, and the others all came forward to greet the middle-aged man when he stepped onto the mountain peak. The number 1 rogue cultivator, Lu Xuanzi, had unparalleled talent. His strength alone could stand shoulder to shoulder with an entire sect, and he had an unparalleled status in the cultivation world of the northern lands. With the appearance of these big shots, many people took the initiative to strike up a conversation. "Little brother, how are you?" Suddenly, a hand was placed on Tong Xian's shoulder, and an old man with a head full of white hair sat down beside him. Tong Xian greeted, "Greetings, uncle. Kid, I see that your aura is restrained. You've already stepped onto the path of cultivation. Do you have a master?" "I started practicing martial arts at the age of 3, became a grandmaster at 7, and stepped into the Khanate stage at 12. I'm now a famous figure among the northern rogue cultivators, and people have given me the nickname Unfettered One. I see that your physique is amazing, so I want to take you as my disciple. What do you think? Uncle, you're so powerful, but I already have a master." As he spoke, Tong Xian pointed at Li Changxing beside him. When he heard that Tong Xian already had a master, Unfettered One's face showed some regret. But when he heard that Li Changxing was Tong Xian's master, he seemed to see hope again. He patted Li Changxing's shoulder and said, "Brother, your disciple is a good seedling, but you're too young and weak. I'm afraid that you'll hold him back. How about this? Give your disciple to me, and I'll give you a high-level magic weapon in exchange. What do you think? I have some friendship with Lu Xuanzi, the number 1 rogue cultivator in the Northwest. Lu Xuanzi is famous for his walking arsenal. He has collected many cultivation methods. When the time comes, I'll definitely find a suitable cultivation method for this child to cultivate. I won't let his talent go to waste." Hearing his words, Li Changxing felt a little funny and shook his head. "My disciple is so outstanding. Why should I give him to you? Besides, since Lu Xuanzi is so powerful, I might as well let him become Lu Xuanzi's disciple. Lu Xuanzi will definitely give him better things than you." This Unfettered Z suddenly didn't know what to say. He rolled his eyes for a long time before saying, "Lu Xuanzi's standard for accepting disciples are extremely high. There are countless people who want to become his disciple. Of course, with your disciple's aptitude, he can indeed enter Lu Xuanzi's eyes. However, Lu Xuanzi definitely won't give you a high-grade magic tool in exchange. Little brother, your disciple's aptitude is good. Even if you don't do it for yourself, you should let him become my disciple. Otherwise, how can you bear to waste such good aptitude? How do you know that being my disciple will waste his talent, but being your disciple will be good for him? Moreover, you want to steal his disciple in front of his master? Your character is really bad. Young man, how can you say that?" Unfettered One's face was a little unhappy. "I'm just telling the truth. If you don't want to listen, then please stay away from me," Li Changxing said expressionlessly. "Humph." Unfettered One coldly snorted and directly stood up and walked towards Lu Xuanzi. Li Changxing didn't bother to pay attention to him and continued to close his eyes to rest. Isn't this brother Unfettered One? When Lu Xuanzi saw Unfettered One, he immediately greeted him with a smile. Although Unfettered One's reputation in the Northwest cultivation world couldn't be compared to Hao Nanyue and the others, he was still a famous figure. Even Hao Nanyue and the others nodded and smiled at him. "Brother Lu, I just saw a young disciple with good talent. I originally wanted to introduce him to you as your disciple, but I didn't expect him to already have a master. Oh, what kind of disciple can actually tempt Brother Unfettered? Unfettered One pointed at Li Changxing's direction. It's that young man. The young man sitting on the stone is his master. Lu Xuanzi looked over, and his eyes couldn't help but light up when he saw Tong Xian. The fire Yuan Qi in this child's body is so rich. He has good talent, but his master is really not that good. It's a pity. Then, Brother Lu, do you want to talk to him personally and ask him to give you his disciple? Unfettered One didn't get a good disciple, so he resented Li Changxing. He only hoped that Lu Xuanzi could make Li Changxing yield and make Li Changxing lose an excellent disciple. This was a typical mentality of, if I can't have it, you can't have it either. It's indeed a bit of a waste for that young man to follow his master, but I can't take him by force. I'll have a good talk with him after the matter at the top of the mountain is over. But that young man is very stubborn. I just mentioned Brother Lu's name to him, but his attitude was still very firm. I see. Lu Xuanzi thought for a moment. Such a good seedling can't be buried. For the sake of that young man's future, I'll be the bad guy for once. Unfettered One sneered. A cold smile appeared on the Unfettered One's face. He knew that his plan had succeeded. Chapter 679. The divine object is about to be born. All the brothers are gathered here. With so many people fighting for it, it is inevitable that a great battle will break out. In the end, even if someone obtains the divine object, they will have countless enemies. Everyone, have you considered this? As one of the big shots present, Hao and Nanuet spoke and looked at the others. Of course, we've thought about it, but who would be willing to miss out on the birth of the divine object? Even if we have to fight to the death, no one will be willing to let it go. Sung Winshan said, I once had a top Yin-Yang master calculate that the object unearthed from Mount Xianhuang is very likely to be a young Shenlong. The Shenlong's body is a treasure. I suggest that everyone divide the Shenlong's body according to the proportion. This will avoid a battle and not make us turn against each other. What do you all think? Hao Nanuet suggested. Everyone fell into deep thought. In fact, before they went up the mountain, they had already thought about it many times. This method was undoubtedly the best. Although it was possible that each person would not get much, it was still better than fighting for it and getting nothing even if they were seriously injured. However, some parts of a Shenlong's body are precious, while some parts are relatively useless. How shall we divide it? Someone asked. I naturally want the dragon pearl born from the Shenlong's young body. At this moment, a voice sounded. Everyone looked in the direction of the voice. The dragon pearl was the essence of the Shenlong. The other party dared to ask for the dragon pearl. It's him. When a figure in a white robe appeared at the top of the mountain, everyone's expression became complicated. Gongzhu Junfeng, the #1 expert of the White Sun Sword sect, was known to be invincible in the same realm. His appearance made everyone fall silent. Even Hao Nanuet, Ing Shaoan, and the others seemed to tacitly agree with him. When the time came, he would get the most precious dragon pearl. The Shenlong's birth will be divided among us. Those small sects and itinerant cultivators also want to covet the divine object. Why don't we drive them away first and then discuss how to divide it? Lu Xuanzi said. The others nodded in agreement and looked at the people on the mountaintop. The divine object will be divided among the 8 of us. All of you retreat to the mountainside. Do you understand? When the divine object was born, everyone who saw it would have a share. Now that they wanted to drive the weak forces off the mountaintop, there was a lot of discussion in the crowd. Isn't this too overbearing? This is a divine item of Mount Xianhuang. How did it become something exclusive to them? They even want to chase us off the mountain. Stop talking. His companion tugged at the speaker's sleeve. These 8 fellows are the strongest fighting force in the northwestern region. Whatever they say goes. If you dare to talk about them and anger them, they will really kill you. What are you waiting for? Lu Xuanzi spoke again as a powerful aura surged from his body. Although the people at the top of the mountain were unwilling, they did not dare to disobey the orders of these people. They could only walk down a mountain one by one. Although there were many people at the top of the mountain, it only took 10 minutes for more than half of them to leave. Soon, There were only a few people left at the top of the mountain. At this moment, a figure stood out, appearing exceptionally dazzling. It was Li Changsheng who was sitting there. Everyone else was walking down the mountain, but he was the only one sitting there motionless. "Who are you? Didn't you hear what Mr. Liu just said? Get the hell down the mountain." A Taoist in a Taoist robe shouted loudly. There was a hint of joy in Lu Xuance's eyes. He naturally recognized Li Changsheng. He was worried about how to snatch Li Changsheng's disciple. After all, it was unreasonable to snatch someone's disciple. But now, Li Changsheng was acting recklessly and did not listen to him. He did not retreat halfway up the mountain, which gave him a good reason to attack. "Boy, it was the sect master's decision to let you retreat down the mountain. How dare you disobey? Let me teach you a lesson." Without waiting for Lu Xuance to make trouble, Yang Hongba stood up impatiently and strode toward Li Changsheng's position. The other sect masters and disciples looked at Li Changsheng curiously, thinking, could it be that this boy fell asleep sitting on the stone? Why is there no reaction until now? Those who had not retreated down the mountain also stopped. They knew that there would be a good show to watch. Although they were dissatisfied with the experts, they did not dare to resist. Now that they saw someone who resisted, they hoped that Li Changsheng would be more powerful and help them vent their anger. Of course, deep down, they knew that this was just a fantasy. There were only so many experts in the northern lands. Could it be that another one would suddenly pop up? Not to mention, Li Changsheng was too young. No matter how one looked at him, he did not look like an expert. Seeing that Yang Hongba had taken the initiative, Lu Xuance did not make any more moves. At the same time, he felt a little regretful. He had missed such a good reason to attack. If he wanted to snatch Li Changsheng's disciple again, he would have to do it openly. Of course, it would be best if Yang Hongba could kill Li Changsheng. Then, without a master, it would be natural for Tong Xian to take him as his master. Other than Lu Xuance, who had ulterior motives, the others looked like they were watching a good show. In their eyes, Li Changsheng was just an ant. They also knew that there were many people who were dissatisfied with their actions. Killing the chicken to warn the monkeys was naturally the best. "Last time, you dared to trick me. Today, I will personally wring your head off." Yang Hongba looked at Li Changsheng with a sinister expression. He looked like he wanted to skin Li Changsheng and pull out his tendons. "You should be thankful that I did not appear last time. Otherwise, you would not have a chance to stand on this mountain peak and shout at me." Li Changsheng slowly opened his eyes. His expression was incomparably indifferent. From start to finish, he had never taken this grand elder of the Seven Mysteries sect to heart. "You are about to die, yet you still dare to be so stubborn. Brat, I really don't know where your confidence comes from. You will know soon enough." Li Changsheng smiled slightly and stood up. He patted Tong Xian's head and said in a low voice, "Stand here and don't move. Watch your master kill the dog." Li Changsheng did not deliberately lower his voice, so it was clearly heard by everyone present. Yang Hongba's eyes turned red. "Brat, if I don't kill you, my surname is not Yang." Many people in the surrounding were surprised. They did not expect this young man to be so strong. It seemed that he was not afraid of Yang Hongba at all. No wonder you said that this person was very stubborn. He is indeed like a stone in a latrine, smelly and stubborn. Lu Xuance said to Xiao Yaozi, who was beside him. "Yes, when I mentioned your name, that brat did not even care." Xiao Yaozi took the opportunity to add a few more words. At this time, Yang Hongba, in his anger, had already rushed towards Li Changsheng with his fists. Chapter 680. In any case, Yang Hongba is a Vajra realm martial expert. Isn't he ashamed to deal with a junior? Many people in the crowd who were chased away didn't have a good impression of the Seven Mysteries sect. When they saw Yang Hongba attacking Li Changsheng, they began to whisper among themselves. "These people are high and mighty. How can they be reasonable in their actions? Otherwise, they wouldn't have chased us down the mountain." Someone said sourly, "This young man only has himself to blame for being targeted. Do you still remember the battle between Yang Hongba and someone a few days ago? It was this young man who stood Yang Hongba up. So it was him. No wonder he dared to come to the top of the mountain after standing Yang Hongbao up. Isn't he tired of living? On the other side, Li Changsheng only curled his lips in disdain as he faced the charging Yang Hongbao. When Yang Hongbao rushed in front of him, he suddenly took a step forward and easily broke Yang Hongbao's attack with a wave of his hand. Then he pressed down on Yang Hongbao's forehead and slammed his head into the hard rock beside him. Bang! Along with a dull sound, the hard rock instantly shattered into pieces. Yang Hongbao also let out a miserable scream as his body twitched on the ground. At this moment, many people in the crowd were stunned as they stared with their eyes wide open. The Vajra realm martial expert, Yang Hongbao, was actually slapped to the ground just like that. It was simply unbelievable. I'm going to kill you. Yang Hongbao lifted his head from the rock debris. His face was covered in blood, and his eyes were filled with hatred. The aura on his body surged wildly as he tried to get up and attack Li Changsheng. However, in the next second, Li Changsheng lifted his foot and stomped down, once again slamming Yang Hongbao's head into the pile of rubble. Crack! Along with a crisp sound, Yang Hongbao also let out a miserable scream like a pig being slaughtered. It echoed on the mountain peak, and it was extremely tragic. Everyone who witnessed this sucked in a breath of cold air. Li Changsheng's kick was too ruthless. Even Yang Hongbao's skull was crushed. Stop! At this time, Hao Nanyue couldn't stand it anymore and shouted loudly. Yang Hongbao is the Grand Elder of the Seven Mysteries sect. Whoever dares to harm him will become the #1 enemy of the Seven Mysteries sect. Our Seven Mysteries sect will not rest until one of us is dead. However, as soon as he finished speaking, he heard Li Changsheng stomp down again. Crack! This time, the crisp sound was exceptionally loud. Yang Hongbao, who had been struggling non-stop, suddenly stopped. Dead? Everyone stared in Yang Hongbao's direction, looking at the young man who was still stepping on Yang Hongbao's head. Too ruthless, too savage, too arrogant. Hao Nanyue had clearly said those words, yet Li Changsheng still did not hesitate to attack Yang Hongbao. This was the same as slapping Hao Nanyue's face in front of everyone. He did not put the Seven Mysteries sect in his eyes at all. At the same time, many people were thinking about Li Changsheng's martial arts realm. Yang Hongbao was a Vajra realm martial artist. Although he could not be compared to top-notch experts like Hao Nanyue and Tsung Wenshan, he was definitely not a nobody. Even though he had underestimated Li Changsheng at the start, before he could even touch the corner of Li Changsheng's robes, he had already been defeated. From this, one could easily imagine Li Changsheng's strength. You killed him? Hao Nanyue stared at Li Changsheng, her voice trembling. Although the Seven Mysteries sect's prestige today was all thanks to him, the Grand Elder, who was second only to him in strength, if Yang Hongbao died, the Seven Mysteries sect's strength would be greatly reduced. Just now, when Li Changsheng stomped down, the sound of bones breaking could be heard clearly by everyone. However, even so, Hao Nanyue could not believe that Li Changsheng dared to kill someone in front of her. That's right. He wanted to kill me, so I sent him on his way. This is normal. If you want to avenge him, then come at me. I don't mind killing one more person. Li Changsheng said arrogantly. His voice echoed on the mountaintop. The surrounding people had no choice but to reassess Li Changsheng. If Li Changsheng had challenged Yang Hongbao at the beginning, everyone would have thought that he was courting death. However, after showing his strength, no one dared to look down on him anymore. Well, boy, you forced me. Hao Nanyue had no other choice. His capable subordinate was killed in front of everyone. If he did not seek justice, he would not be able to establish himself in the cultivation world in the future. Old man, who wanted to snatch my disciple, you can come too. Li Changsheng looked at Xiao Yaozi and issued a challenge. Just now, Xiao Yaozi ran to Li Changsheng's side and encouraged him to snatch Li Changsheng's disciple. Although his voice was not loud, it could not escape Li Changsheng's ears. This! Xiao Yaozi hesitated. There was some hesitation on Xiao Yaozi's face. His strength was about the same as Yang Hongbao's. With Yang Hongbao's example, how could he dare to fight with Li Changsheng? Brother Xiao Yaozi is helping me. If you want to challenge him, you have to go through me first. At this time, Lu Xuanzi stood up. In Lu Xuanzi's view, Li Changsheng dared to challenge Hao Nanyue and Xiao Yaozi at the same time because Xiao Yaozi's strength was low. If he stood up, Li Changsheng would definitely take back his words. Unexpectedly, Li Changsheng just smiled disdainfully. Then the three of you can attack together. To tell you the truth, I'm determined to get this divine object. Anyone who tries to snatch it from me is my enemy. Asking the three of them to join forces to deal with him was already extremely arrogant. Now, Li Changsheng actually said that he was determined to get the divine object. Is this kid crazy? So many experts are here for the divine object that is about to be born. Even Gongzu Junfeng of White Sunsword sect doesn't dare to say that he wants the treasure for himself. At most, he only wants the most precious dragon pearl. Who gave him the courage? This is going to be a good show. Does he think that he can look down on the heroes of the world just because he killed Yang Hongba? What a fool. Sure enough, even Ying Xiao and Zheng Wenshan, Gongzu Junfeng, and the others' faces became gloomy. Li Changsheng challenging Hao Nanyue and Lu Xuanzi was a good show in their eyes. It had nothing to do with them. However, Li Changsheng actually wanted to monopolize the treasure, which made him their enemy. Friend, isn't your tone a bit too arrogant? We have so many experts here, and we still need to discuss how to split the treasure. You want to take the divine object alone? Are you not putting us in your eyes? Ying Xiao said loudly. Who are you? Why should I put you in my eyes? Li Changsheng said coldly. His words stirred up 1,000 waves. In an instant, 5 or 6 killing intent locked onto his body. Obviously, his words had angered many people. Brother Lu, Brother Xiaoyao, you don't need to do anything. He dared to kill my sect's grand elder. I'll take his life. Hao Nanyue's aura rose. If he joined forces with Lu Xuanzi and Xiao Yaozi, even if they could kill Li Changsheng, others would say that 3 top experts only killed a young man. He couldn't afford to lose face. Moreover, although Li Changsheng killed Yang Hongba, it was nothing to Hao Nanyue. Hao Nanyue's ability was more than 10 times higher than Yang Hongba's. Chapter 681. Don't talk nonsense. Come and die. Li Changsheng was still arrogant. Facing the 7 Mysteries sect master, he was like a cat or a dog to him. Kid, don't be so arrogant. Let's see if you can still be so stubborn later. Hao Nanyue was furious. She stomped on the ground and jumped into the air. Her palm turned into a giant handprint and pressed down on Li Changsheng. It was somewhat similar to Li Changsheng's giant palm print. Trying to show off in front of Lu Ban? Insignificant skill. Li Changsheng's eyes were full of disdain. Although the other party's attack was similar to his own heaven-raising palm imprint, its power could not be compared at all. It paled in comparison to the other party's attack. This kid is still so arrogant, even in the face of death. He can be ranked as the most arrogant young man I have ever seen. Lu Xuanzi shook his head and said, in his eyes, even he had to be careful with how Nanyue's move, but Li Changsheng dared to be so casual. Wasn't this the path to death? The others also showed a look of pity. Li Changsheng was able to kill Yang Hongba at such a young age. This talent made many people feel ashamed of their inferiority. But in the eyes of the crowd, Li Changsheng was still too young. For ordinary martial artists, being young meant that their body was at its peak. However, for cultivators, the older they were, the deeper their cultivation. This was an iron law. Master, be careful. Tong Xian clenched his fist. Back then, Li Changsheng had easily slapped Yang Hongba to death. He was proud to have such a master, but the strength Hao Nanyue displayed was too strong. She actually flew up. Furthermore, the huge palm print that descended from the sky made Tong Xian think of Buddha Gautama in the television series, the 5-Finger Mountain that suppressed Sun Wukong. For him, anyone who could fly was an immortal. No matter how powerful his master was, could he be more powerful than an immortal? Therefore, at this moment, his face was full of nervousness, worry, and fear. Hao Nanyue's palm was already less than 3 meters away from Li Changsheng, and the wind it brought along blew the sand and stones under Li Changsheng's feet into the air. At this moment, Li Chongsheng finally moved. He raised his head and clenched his fist, then lightly punched out. Boom! At that moment, it was as if a clap of thunder rang out between heaven and earth. The earth trembled, and that huge handprint was instantly torn apart by Li Chongsheng's powerful fist force when it came into contact with his fist. At the same time, the remaining power of the fist flew directly into the air and smashed into Hao Nanyue's chest. Bang! In the next second, Hao Nanyue fell from the sky like a kite with a broken string. She landed on a mountain rock and smashed the rock the size of a house into pieces. She spat out a mouthful of blood. It's impolite not to reciprocate. Since you've made a move, I'll return a punch to you. Tongue. He stepped on the ground and soared into the air like a large bird. When he reached a height of 100 meters, he swooped down like an eagle that had spotted its prey. His fist was like a dragon, and with the power of falling from the sky, it directly smashed into Hao Nanyue's chest. Bang! At that moment, under Li Chongsheng's fist, Hao Nanyue's body was directly split from the middle. Her body flew to both sides, and blood splattered everywhere. The dignified Seven Mysteries sect master was unexpectedly killed by Li Chongsheng with a single strike. Sect master. When the Seven Mysteries sect's disciples saw this scene, their eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. They did not even consider the fact that Li Chongsheng had the strength to kill Hao Nanyue, and one by one, they rushed forward without any regard for their lives. You can't. Sung Wenshan, who was on good terms with Hao Nanyue, was just about to warn her when he saw Li Chongsheng's hand gesture. The small stones that had been smashed into pieces by Hao Nanyue gathered together and condensed into a round ball. As Li Chongsheng pushed out with his palm, the round ball instantly shattered into pieces. Countless stones flew out in all directions like a dense barrage of bullets. Bang, 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 bang. The Seven Mysteries sect's disciples who rushed forward were smashed by the flying stones. Some had their heads smashed, some had holes in their chests, and some had half of their cheeks blown away. In an instant, the people who rushed forward all fell to the ground. Some died on the spot, while others were seriously injured and let out blood-curdling screams. The entire peak of the mysterious Yellow Mountain seemed to have turned into a living hell. It was a tragic sight. Li Chongsheng stood in the middle of the battlefield like a demon god. His young face and indifferent expression left a deep impression on many people present. He would become a nightmare of many cowards. The sect master of the Seven Mysteries sect was dead. At this moment, no one dared to underestimate Li Chongsheng, who had appeared out of nowhere. How could he be so strong? They had never heard of such a person before. This time, even Sung Wenshan and the others looked at Li Chongsheng with fear. Hao Nanyue was definitely not a weakling among the many experts present, but from the moment she attacked to the moment she was killed, it had only been a minute. Moreover, she was completely crushed by Li Chongsheng. Didn't you two want to attack just now? Li Chongsheng looked at Lu Xuanzi and Xiao Yaozi. Lu Xuanzi's eyes flickered as he struggled in his heart. After all, the scene of Li Chongsheng killing Hao Nanyue was too shocking. He really didn't have the confidence to face Li Chongsheng. At this moment, Xiao Yaozi felt an uncontrollable fear in his heart when Li Chongsheng's eyes swept over his face. Even Hao Nanyue had died at the hands of Li Chongsheng. What was he to him? Weren't you very strong just now? Why aren't you talking now? Li Chongsheng curled his lips. Without waiting for Lu Xuanzi and Xiao Yaozi to react, he directly raised his palm and slammed it down. This move was many times stronger than Hao Nanyue's. Lu Xuanzi didn't dare to face such an attack head-on. He moved his body and turned into an afterimage, directly dodging the range of the palm. However, Xiao Yaozi didn't have the same reaction speed as Lu Xuanzi. Facing the falling palm, he tried to block it, but just as he raised his arm, it was directly slapped down. Pucci! His body exploded into a cloud of blood mist under the palm. After letting Lu Xuanzi escape, Li Chongsheng didn't continue to attack. Instead, he coldly glanced at everyone present. The divine item that appeared in Mount Xianhuang belongs to me alone. Does anyone have any objections? arrogant and overbearing, one man could hold the pass against 10,000. Friend, even if you are strong, do you think you can fight against all of us alone? At this moment, Xiaoan couldn't help but stand up. You were able to kill Hao Nanyue, so you are indeed qualified to obtain the divine item of Mount Xianhuang. How about this? Since Hao Nanyue is dead, you can take his place. Let's sit down together and discuss how to distribute the divine item of Mount Xianhuang. What do you think? Xiaoan suggested, and the others nodded in agreement. In this cultivation world, where the one with the biggest fist was right, Li Changxing's strength had already gained their recognition. In everyone's opinion, Xiaoan had already made a concession by saying so. However, Li Changxing decisively shook his head and said, I said, the treasure of Mount Xianhuang belongs to me alone. None of you have a share. Chapter 682. Aren't you a little too arrogant? Xiaoan's face was a little embarrassed. He took the initiative to let Li Changxing replace the Seven Mysteries sect master, Hao Nanyue. He thought that he had already taken a big step back, but he didn't expect Li Changxing to be so ungrateful. He couldn't help but clench the folding fan in his hand, his eyes filled with murderous intent. If it weren't for Li Changxing's powerful hand seal, he would have already attacked. Li, don't be so shameless. Lu Xuanzi stood out at this time. He was very good at reading people's expressions. When Xiaoan spoke, he knew that Xiaoan had the intention to kill Li Changxing. Lu Xuanzi would never dare to fight Li Changxing alone, but with Xiaoan, it was a different story. When two Vajra martial artists worked together, their combat power was definitely not as simple as 1 + 1 = 2. Seeing Lu Xuanzi stand out, Xiaoan suddenly felt confident. He opened the folding fan in his hand and gently waved it. Wind blades immediately swept towards Li Changxing. He suddenly started to attack. Li, you killed the Seven Mysteries sect master, Hao Nanyue. Brother, how is my good friend? Everyone came for the divine object today, but you want to take it all for yourself. How can I let you be so arrogant? As soon as Li Changxing attacked, Lu Xuanzi stepped out and rushed towards Li Changxing. It was as if they had agreed beforehand. The two cooperated well. One attacked from afar, and the other from close range. Their power was extraordinary. As the #1 rogue cultivator, Lu Xuanzi was known as a walking arsenal. In his life, he had listed countless martial arts and combined them into one. He created his own set of raging fire fists. Although the name was vulgar, its power was absolutely powerful. When he got close to Li Changxing, he punched out, and a scarlet light illuminated the whole world. At this moment, he actually received the response of the fire spirit vein in Mount Xianhuang. Even though Xiao and spent most of his time with women, his folding fan was an incredible magic weapon. He could shoot out a few wind blades from far away, but they would snowball and grow bigger. By the time they got close to Li Changxing, they were already overwhelming. To be able to make two Vajra realm martial artists attack at the same time, even if this Li Changxing were to die here today, it would be an honorable death. Some people in the crowd were discussing. In many people's eyes, Vajra realm martial artists were already top-notch experts. Every expert had their own pride, and it was rare for them to team up. But once they joined forces, it would definitely be extraordinary. Facing the absolute attacks of the two Vajra realm martial experts, Li Changxing opened his palm, and a vortex appeared in the middle of his palm. The moment that majestic fist made contact with Li Changxing's palm, the aura of the raging inferno instantly disappeared. At the same time, the fist was firmly grasped in Li Changxing's hand and shook with all his might. Lu Xuanzi's body emitted a crackling sound as he was sent flying. He landed on the ground and took several steps back. His entire arm was twisted into a fried dough twist. At the same time that Lu Xuanzi appeared, Xiaoan's wind blades also arrived in front of him. This time, Li Changxing didn't even raise his head. With a casual wave of his sleeve, iron chain traversing the river appeared. Xiaoan's wind blades couldn't even cut a corner of his clothes. After breaking the siege of the two experts, Li Changxing stood in place, showing the demeanor of an expert. On the mountain peak, the wind was blowing, and everyone fell into silence. It was too carefree, and it was too understated. The Vajra realm martial experts became so weak in front of Li Changsheng. Who exactly is this person? How can he be so powerful? No wonder he dared to say that he wanted to be first and take all the divine items in Mount Xinhuang. While many people were discussing, Lu Xuanzi and Ning Shaoan revealed a determined look in their eyes, as if they had made some kind of decision. Kid, I have underestimated you. It seems like I don't have to hide my strength anymore. Lu Xuanzi finished his words. A terrifying aura presence rose from his body as surging spirit aura gathered on his body. His raging fire fist was a fire tribute cultivation technique, and the spirit vein under Mount Xianhuang was also a fire tribute spirit vein. It could be said that he had the geographical advantage. Lu Xuanzi's aura presence grew stronger and stronger. When it reached the peak, his entire body seemed to have turned into a furnace, and the temperature on the mountain peak became scorching hot. The peak stage of the Vajra realm. I'm afraid he is only half a step away from the Finger Profound realm. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to trigger such a phenomenon. The Hall Master of the Sun Luo Hall commented. Boom! Just as everyone's attention was attracted by Lu Xuanzi, the ground suddenly shook, and a gale rose from the mountain peak. Ning Shaoan's clothes swelled, and that folding fan left his hand and flew into the air. There were wind blades spinning on the folding fan. Li Changsheng didn't care at all. Lu Xuanzi and Ning Shaoan had both reached the peak stage of the Vajra realm. Perhaps even Gongzu Junfeng, who was known to be invincible in the same realm, might not be able to win against the two of them together. Even a few Vajra realm martial experts were staring intently at the scene. It had been a long time since such a great battle had happened. Are you finally done accumulating your power? Then make your move. At this moment, Li Changsheng's indifferent voice echoed. It caused an uproar. Li Changsheng had actually been waiting for the two of them to accumulate their power to their peak state. How confident was he? Give me your life. Lu Xuanzi had just been injured by Li Changsheng and had lost all his face. Right now, he was anxious to regain his face. His body rose from the ground and actually merged with the fire clouds in the sky. He turned into a ball of raging fire and crashed towards Li Changsheng like a meteor. Take this! Ning Shaoan pointed, and the folding fan in his hand actually brought up a tornado and swept towards Li Changsheng. Both of their attacks had a hint of merging with the power of heaven and earth. This was the sign of stepping into the Finger Profound realm. It meant that although the two of them hadn't officially stepped into the Finger Profound realm, they were already able to utilize some of the Finger Profound realm's profundity. How could ordinary people stop two martial experts who were infinitely close to the Finger Profound realm? Facing an attack that was close to a fatal blow, Li Changsheng moved. He raised his hand and drew out the Heart Wishful Sword. It turned into a beam of light and soared into the sky, slashing towards the front. Swoosh! The sword light sliced through the air and pierced into the incoming flames. The raging flames were immediately sliced into two halves by the sword light. Lu Xuanzi's body fell from the sky. Before he landed, he was split open in the middle. Blood splattered across the sky. He was actually killed by a single slash. Li Changsheng activated the seal of mountains and rivers. Mountains and rivers appeared above his head and smashed towards the folding fan. The densely packed wind blades crashed onto the seal of mountains and rivers and were immediately smashed into pieces. The seal of mountains and rivers descended. Ning Shaoan's expression changed drastically. He couldn't dodge in time and was directly smashed. PFFF. Ning Shaoan's body exploded inch by inch under the powerful force and completely turned into a blood mist. Two peak-stage Vajra realm martial experts had died in the hands of Li Changsheng. At this moment, the entire world was silent. Chapter 683. On the mountaintop, the wind was whistling and everyone was speechless. Li Changsheng had killed 2 peak-stage Vajra realm martial experts, which shocked everyone. Both of them were infinitely close to the Finger Profound realm. When the two of them worked together, they could even fight against a Finger Profound realm martial expert. However, they were casually killed by Li Changsheng. It was simply terrifying. For a moment, even the remaining 5 super experts had fear in their eyes. The other spectators were even more aghast. To be able to kill 2 peak-stage Vajra realm martial experts by himself, such strength was terrifying. How could he be so strong? A figure hidden in the crowd was the star-gazing pavilion's grand elder, Zhong Penghai. Originally, the star-gazing pavilion's members had all evacuated from the Xianhuang mountain, but the pavilion lord, Zhao Xiaojie, couldn't take it lying down. Hence, he sent Zhong Penghai back secretly to scout for information. When he saw Li Changsheng arrogantly saying that he wanted to seize the divine item unearthed from the Xianhuang mountain, Zhong Penghai was overjoyed. In his opinion, Li Changsheng's actions were obviously seeking death. However, he never expected Li Changsheng to be so strong. Only now did he know that Li Changsheng didn't even use his full strength in the battle with the star-gazing pavilion. Do any of you have any objections? Li Changsheng's gaze swept across the remaining 5 experts indifferently. He was invincible and dominated the entire place. He didn't seem to care about all the experts on the mountaintop. He was arrogant enough. He indeed had the strength to be arrogant. Countless gazes were fixed on Li Changsheng, filled with complex emotions, especially the remaining 5 experts. They were all well-known figures in the Northern Lands cultivation world. When had they been looked down upon like this? However, after Li Changsheng finished speaking, no one spoke or stood out. The death of 2 Vajra realm martial experts was enough to deter many people. No one was willing to challenge Li Changsheng, who they didn't know how strong he was. If they failed, the outcome would be death. After going up the mountain, Li Changsheng had killed 4 Vajra realm martial experts. How many people could compare to such combat strength? Silence, the long silence. Finally, just when everyone was about to lose their cool, a figure stood out. White Sun Sword Faction, Gongzu Junfeng. As the most important figure in the northern cultivation world, Gongzu Junfeng was known to be invincible in the same realm. As he stood out, it was as if a pool of stagnant water had finally regained its vitality. Everyone revealed looks of anticipation. Li Changsheng was too arrogant. Moreover, how could they be willing to let Li Changsheng monopolize the treasures of Mount Xianhuang? Gongzu Junfeng held a long sword in his hand and walked out step by step. His gaze was indifferent. With every step he took, a sharp sword energy shot into the sky and stirred up the wind and clouds. Li Changsheng, with the strength you have shown, you are qualified to get a large part of the mysterious divine object. Why you have to shed all pretense of cordiality? Say no more. If you want to fight, then let's fight. The divine item of Mount Xianhuang can only belong to me. Li Changsheng said coldly. Even when facing the strongest person present, Gongzu Junfeng, he still didn't hold back. I'm just telling you a possibility. Since I've already stepped forward, it's useless even if you change your mind now. Gongzu Junfeng said coldly. He slowly unsheathed his sword. The moment the sword left its sheath, the entire world resounded with the cry of a sword. What a terrifying sword intent. At this moment, everyone on the summit felt their hearts palpitate. He truly lived up to his reputation as the most talented sword genius of the White Sun Sword faction in the past 1,000 years. With the aura he released, no one in the northern lands could contend against him. Although that Li Changsheng is strong, meeting Gongzu Junfeng will be his nightmare. Someone sighed. Gongzu Junfeng was an illustrious figure, a benchmark of the northern cultivation world. Even when the mountain viewing tower lord was still alive, he still could not conceal his edge. Sword cultivators are destined to stir up a storm and become one of the greatest figures in history. I hope that Gongzu Junfeng can kill Li Changsheng. Someone silently thought. Originally, everyone had been discussing how to divide up the divine objects unearthed from Mount Xianhuang, but Li Changsheng had appeared out of nowhere and broken the rules. At this moment, Gongzu Junfeng's sword intent was still surging. As he descended, a gigantic sword appeared behind him. It was like a lofty mountain, giving people a feeling of reverence. Many people looked at Li Changsheng with sneers and disdain. So what if you're stronger? Against a sword cultivator genius like Gongzu Junfeng, you'll still die in the end. My White Sun Sword faction has been passed down since ancient times. After mastering the sword, we can split the stars and the moon. The founder of my White Sun Sword faction once cleaved a 10,000-foot mountain in half with a single strike, severed a river with a single strike, and destroyed a god with a single strike. Although I am not as powerful as my ancestor, there is no one I cannot kill with my sword. Gongzu Junfeng stared at Li Changsheng as he spoke, his voice melodious. Even the whistling wind on the mountain peak couldn't cover up his voice. Recently, I have been cultivating my sword heart. Due to my overflowing killing intent, I have tried my best not to make a move to ensure that my sword heart is smooth. However, you are too arrogant and intimidating. Even if my sword heart is slightly imperfect, I will still slay you with my sword today. I will let you know the consequences of underestimating me. Gongzu Junfeng. Gongzu Junfeng finally stood still 10 steps away from Li Changsheng. He slowly raised his sword and pointed it at Li Changsheng. At this moment, Gongzu Junfeng's sword intent had reached the peak. Swish! That massive sword also turned from illusion to reality and condensed into a physical object. The surrounding void actually started to distort as it couldn't withstand the powerful sword intent. A swordsman was sharp. If Gongzu Junfeng didn't make a move in the face of Li Changsheng's provocation, his sword heart would never be perfected. Moreover, with Gongzu Junfeng's arrogance, even if Li Changsheng could kill 2 peak stage Vajra realm martial artists, he still wouldn't put Li Changsheng in his eyes. In the eyes of a swordsman, there was nothing that a sword couldn't settle. For the cultivation world to produce someone like you, it is indeed extraordinary. However, your sword Dao is inferior. Li Changsheng opened his mouth, and his words were filled with disdain. What did you say? Gongzu Junfeng also frowned. The surrounding audience was in an uproar. Li Changsheng's strength was indeed formidable, but he was actually arrogant enough to say that Gongzu Junfeng's sword art was inferior. Cuckoo! Gongzu Junfeng was stunned for a few seconds before he couldn't help but chuckle. If you dare to say that my sword Dao is inferior, then I would like to experience what superior sword art is. All right. As soon as Li Changsheng finished speaking, he immediately waved his hand. The heart's wishful sword drew a white light in the sky and rushed towards Gongzu Junfeng. It carried the sound of breaking through the air and was extremely fast. Li Changsheng actually chose to make a move without hesitation. Furthermore, he was going to use sword art against sword art. He really wanted to overwhelm Gongzu Junfeng with sword art. At this moment, Gongzu Junfeng's face was filled with sneer and anger. In his eyes, Li Changsheng used sword art to deal with him. This was belittling and insulting him. Chapter 684. You dare to use sword techniques in front of me? You really don't know what's good for you. Today, I'll let you understand the difference between us. Hula. As Gongzu Junfeng slashed down with his sword, the sharp power and sword light soared into the sky like a surging wave. The mighty sword Qi wreaked havoc in the air. At this moment, the color of the entire world changed. Li Changsheng's expression did not change. The heart-wishful sword turned into a white light and slashed across, directly splitting the falling sword light into 2. A true superior sword technique condenses the sword into a thread and gathers the sharpness in a line. It definitely doesn't rely on momentum to win, so your sword technique can only be considered inferior. Li Changsheng said, his words full of disdain. Nonsense. Gongzu Junfeng's expression was very ugly. He shouted loudly, and the giant sword behind him began to rise from the ground, and the entire mountain peak began to tremble. A huge sword flew into the sky and then came crashing down like a mountain falling from the sky. Wherever it passed by, It destroyed everything in its path, wanting to crush everything into smithereens. Gongzu Junfeng was different from ordinary sword cultivators. Others only refined one life flying sword, but he refined two. One was illusory, and the other was real. The real sword was the one in his hand, and the illusory sword was the one behind him. The so-called illusory sword gathered the chi of heaven and earth into sword chi. It was like a river of stars falling down, sweeping everything in its path. Logically speaking, before the Finger Xian realm, Gongzu Junfeng could not use the illusory sword because it involved the principles of heaven and earth. No one knew what kind of secret technique he used. No wonder he did not take Li Changxing seriously. Seeing the giant sword descending from the sky, many people exclaimed in surprise. That giant sword was thousands of feet long, majestic, and sword chi crisscrossed. Not to mention a person, even a city could be destroyed in an instant. It had the power to split the sky and earth. With just this sword, Gongzu Junfeng could walk alone in the cultivation world of the northern land. So, you have actually condensed two intrinsic flying swords. That's quite a unique path. Most people would not be able to deal with you. Unfortunately, you met me. Li Changxing was not flustered at all. He waved his hand, and the wishful heart sword flew back from afar. It danced above Li Changxing's head, forming a sword net. Li Changxing went up to him. Bang, 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 bang. The wishful heart sword and the mountain-like sword collided, creating a thunderous sound that resounded through the sky. The giant sword was actually blocked in the air, unable to descend for a while. No wonder you dare to speak so arrogantly. It turns out that you actually have such a high level of attainment in the way of the sword. However, this still won't change your fate of death. Boom! Gongzu Junfeng stepped on the ground, and a steady stream of true chi flowed into the giant sword. The giant sword continued to press down on Li Changxing. At the same time, the sword in his hand flew out and shot towards Li Changxing. Both swords were used to kill the enemy. This Li Changxing is barely able to block Gongzu Junfeng's virtual sword. Once the real sword is used, the two swords will cooperate with each other. I'm afraid he will die without a doubt. Many people stared nervously at the center of the battlefield. Such a battle was once in 100 years. If they could comprehend something from the battle between the two, it would definitely be beneficial for their future cultivation. In the crowd, Zhong Penghai clenched his fists and secretly cheered for Gongzu Junfeng. He could not wait for Li Changxing to be crushed by Gongzu Junfeng's sword light. Then, he could take revenge for the stargazing pavilion. Li Changxing's hand was constantly forming seals, and the sword net formed by the wishful heart sword was constantly collapsing. The mountain-like giant sword pressed down layer by layer. It was as if Mount Tai was pressing down, suffocating people and giving them a sense of insignificance. The other flying sword also arrived in front of Li Changxing. Li Changxing's body constantly moved to dodge. Although he was able to dodge the flying sword's attack every time, in the eyes of everyone, it was already dangerous. Master, you can't lose. Tong Xian clenched his fists, and his face was full of worry. He and Li Changxing had experienced many things along the way and had a very deep relationship. He also admired Li Changxing very much and was proud of him. However, Li Changxing's enemies were each stronger than the last, especially Gongzu Junfeng. Even with his experience, he did not know how terrifying Gongzu Junfeng's strength was. However, the giant sword that fell from the sky was already terrifying, as if it was the power of heaven and earth. Is he going to die? Many people were waiting quietly, and their hearts were in their throats. Li Changxing seemed like he would be squashed by the sword at any time and die without a burial place. However, at this time, Li Changxing suddenly stopped his movements and laughed. Gongzu Junfeng, your swordsmanship is indeed unique. I have already understood it, and it has given me a lot of inspiration. Now, if you don't have any stronger moves, then everything should be over. When these words came out, many people were filled with doubts. What does he mean? It seems like he said that the reason why he was in danger just now was because he wanted to experience the profound meaning of Gongzu Junfeng's two life origin flying swords. Could it be that he still has some strength left? Impossible. With the power of Gongzu Junfeng's sword, I'm afraid that even a finger-profound realm expert would not be able to handle it. How could he dare to divert his attention to study the good and bad of Gongzu Junfeng's swordsmanship? Many people were puzzled. Li Changsheng suddenly stomped on the ground with one foot and raised his other hand high. The falling giant sword was caught in his hand. No matter how Gongzu Junfeng tried to cast a spell, it couldn't fall even half a bit. At the same time, the heart's wishful sword became 3 feet long and was held in Li Changsheng's hand. He slashed forward and accurately hit Gongzu Junfeng's other flying sword. The flying sword was sent flying back by the force of the blow. Rumble. The moment the flying sword was sent flying back, Li Changsheng's body actually grew several meters taller. One of his legs was bent, while the other was planted on the ground. He exerted strength in his hand, and the huge sword was actually thrown back by him. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. A series of roars sounded in the sky. In the distance, Gongzu Junfeng suddenly retreated 3 steps. His face was pale, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. The 2 flying swords were condensed with his heart and soul and were connected to his mind. Now that they were blocked by Li Changsheng, his mind was greatly shaken. I said that your swordsmanship is inferior, but you didn't believe me. Li Changsheng clenched the heart's wishful sword in his hand and stepped on the ground. It was as if there was an invisible ladder that allowed him to fly to the top of the mountain. Then he stabbed at Gongzu Junfeng. The sharp sword light pierced through the air and shot towards Gongzu Junfeng's chest. Li Changsheng not only blocked the attack of Gongzu Junfeng's 2 flying swords, but also injured Gongzu Junfeng. He found an opportunity to take the initiative to attack, reversing the situation between the enemy and himself, and gaining the upper hand. Chapter 685. Li Changsheng instantly gained the upper hand, and the sword light slashed down. Many people couldn't react to the sudden change in the situation. Gongzu Junfeng had an unparalleled status in the northern cultivation world, but now he seemed to be inferior to Li Changsheng. This dealt a big blow to those who were originally full of confidence in Gongzu Junfeng. Everyone was reevaluating Li Changsheng's combat strength. Even though they had tried their best to think of Li Changsheng's combat strength as high as possible, in the end, they still found that they had underestimated Li Changsheng, especially when Li Changsheng casually threw out the giant sword that was thousands of feet long. It was like the legendary giant spiritual god that could move mountains and seas, giving people a feeling of invincibility. As for Gongzu Junfeng, he finally stopped looking at Li Changsheng with disdain. He didn't attack at the start because he wanted to stabilize his Dao heart in order to find a perfect Dao heart. Another reason was because he disdained to do so because of his pride. In his opinion, no one in the northern lands was worthy of him making a move, even if Li Changsheng had killed 2 peak stage Vajra realm cultivators. But now he didn't think so. No one could underestimate the strength Li Changsheng had shown. Today I will kill you to prove my Dao heart. Gongzu Junfeng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, and the illusory sword and the real sword appeared beside him again. He was the number 1 sword cultivator in the northern lands. If he lost to others in sword Dao, it would be a great blow to his Dao heart. It would even destroy his martial Dao faith and create a heart demon. Gongzu Junfeng's hands danced. After blocking Li Changsheng's sword light with the giant sword, the 2 swords, one illusory and one real, completely merged into one. 2 swords in harmony, invincible in the world. Gongzu Junfeng shouted, and the aura on his body changed completely. At that moment, it was as if he had become one with the whole world. Finger mystery! Someone cried out in alarm. Gongzu Junfeng had broken through to the finger mystery realm in the battle with Li Changsheng. What kind of talent was this? Once he entered the finger mystery realm, he immediately transcended mortality and was no longer immortal. He had reached another level of life. Gongzu Junfeng was worthy of being called the #1 prodigy of the White Sun Sword faction in the past 7 years. Many people were agitated. Breaking through a realm in the middle of a battle was originally a very difficult thing to do, not to mention that he had broken through to the Finger Profound realm. Originally, Li Changsheng was able to block 2 of Gongzu Junfeng's sword attacks and gain the upper hand. I thought he could really create a miracle and kill Gongzu Junfeng. But now, he has no hope at all. Once he enters the Finger Arcane realm, his battle prowess will increase by more than tenfold. I'm afraid that the divine item that will appear in Mount Xianwang today will all belong to Gongzu Junfeng alone. The surrounding people were discussing animatedly. As for Gongzu Junfeng himself, he revealed a proud expression. This was his true trump card. Originally, he was only half a step away from the Finger Profound realm and urgently needed a strong pressure to break through his limits. And Li Changsheng's appearance gave him this opportunity. Li Changsheng, if you die, I will erect a tombstone for you. My future achievements on the path of martial arts will be due to you. Gongzu Junfeng laughed. Breaking through to the Finger Profound realm had been his long-cherished wish for many years. Now, it had finally been realized. Don't be happy too early. It's easy to be sad after too much joy. So what if you broke through to the Finger Profound realm? Li Changsheng shook his head. In the eyes of others, the Finger Profound realm was very valuable. It was 1 in 10,000, a dragon among men, high above, and represented transcendence. But in the eyes of Li Changsheng, it was really nothing. Is the Finger Profound realm that great? I can't even remember the number of Finger Profound realm experts I've killed. Li Changsheng's words fell. Behind him, the shape of a giant sword was gradually condensing and taking shape. A vast sword intent gathered around him. When Gongzu Junfeng's sword light flew over, it suddenly expanded to a size of 10,000 feet and pressed down. It was exactly the same move as Gongzu Junfeng. How is this possible? This pair of life-flying swords is a sword Dao that I created. How can you know it? At this moment, Gongzu Junfeng's face turned pale with fright. His mind was in a trance. It's over. The giant sword and Gongzu Junfeng's flying sword collided. Even a void was shattered. Countless sharp blade-like gales whistled over. Wherever it passed, the weaker ones would be swept away. All their flesh and blood were scraped off, turning into eerie white bones. The stronger ones could barely resist, but they still vomited blood. Only a few Vajra realm martial experts were unaffected. But no matter what, they couldn't suppress the shock on their faces. At that time, Li Changsheng said that he was comprehending the profoundness of Gongzu Junfeng's sword Dao. In the eyes of everyone, it was nonsense. But now, they understood that Li Changsheng actually comprehended Gongzu Junfeng's sword Dao and used it for himself. No one was more shocked than Gongzu Junfeng. Comprehending his sword Dao wasn't the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was that he used many years to condense a void sword, but Li Changsheng used less than a minute. And the next moment, Gongzu Junfeng was even more dazed. Li Changsheng raised the Heart's Wish sword and waved it casually. The Heart's Wish sword turned into a sword light and merged with the giant sword. The two swords combined. The move was exactly the same as Gongzu Junfeng's, but the power was even stronger than Gongzu Junfeng's. How could this be? Gongzu Junfeng was dumbfounded. It was as if his soul was stolen. Break! Li Changsheng slowly spat out a word. The giant sword formed by Gongzu Junfeng's 2 origin flying swords was instantly shattered. At the same time, a sword light slashed down mercilessly. Almost in the blink of an eye, Gongzu Junfeng's body was swept by the giant sword and exploded into a cloud of blood mist. How could this be? The sword Dao that he cultivated for dozens of years was learned by someone in a short exchange of moves. Furthermore, the sword Dao used was even stronger than his own. It was just that no one could give him an answer. He could never imagine that there would be a person in this world who lived for 99 lifetimes. He could never imagine that he was facing a super fierce person who could kill a finger-profound realm expert with one slap. If not for Li Changxing's interest in his sword Dao, the attack that Gongzu Junfeng was so proud of wouldn't have been able to withstand a light finger from Li Changxing. That was how big the gap between people was. Gongzu Junfeng died. On the mountaintop, everyone's mouth was dry. This was a result that no one had expected. That was a sword cultivator who was said to be invincible in the same realm. After breaking through to the finger-profound realm, he was still killed. Looking at the floating cloud of blood mist, Li Changsheng casually waved his hand. The illusory mountain disappeared, and the Rui Heart sword flew back to his hand. However, it was obvious that the luster of the Rui Heart sword was even brighter. This was Li Changxing's biggest surprise. Gongzu Junfeng only thought of using the illusory and real swords to merge into one. However, Li Changsheng thought of condensing countless illusory swords and merging them into the origin flying swords. This way, the origin flying swords could be continuously upgraded. Of course, only Li Changsheng could condense an illusory sword in such a short period of time. Although it would consume a lot of true essence, this true essence could be cultivated back. It was an endless source of renewable resources. If I rely on this method to make my Rui Heart sword grow into a top-grade magical weapon. Thinking of this, Li Changxing's eyes lit up. Chapter 686. Gongzu Junfeng was dead, and everyone's eyes were filled with disbelief. The number one expert of the White Sun Sword sect, the number one fighter of the same realm, had fallen so easily. In the crowd, Zhong Penghai of the Stargazing Pavilion widened his eyes. I didn't think he'd be this strong. On the summit of Mount Xianhuang, Li Changxing stood with his hands clasped behind his back like an invincible war god. The divine object of Mount Xianhuang will belong to me alone. Does anyone have any objections? His voice rang out in everyone's ears. At this moment, it seemed so natural. Silence, a deathly silence. No one spoke. Li Changxing's strength was too strong. Countless people turned to Sun Wenshan, Long Guanyu, and Yin Yao. Half of the 8 experts had already died at Li Changxing's hands. Including Li Changsheng, there were only 5 people qualified to compete for the divine object of Mount Xianhuang. The remaining 4 would choose to bow their heads and hand over the divine items unearthed from Mount Xianhuang to Li Changsheng, or fight Li Changsheng like the previous 4. But it was clear that even the strongest cultivators of the northern lands were not qualified to stand before Li Changsheng. A moment later, the 4 of them stepped forward as if they were of one mind. Their auras intersected in the air, stirring up the winds and clouds. Li, you're too domineering. I admit that any one of us is no match for you. But if all 4 of us were to attack, do you still think you have a chance of winning? Sun Wenshan of the Profound Sun Pavilion stepped forward. As a branch of the Confucian school, he cultivated the 13 strategies of spring and autumn, a technique of the purest yang. At the same time, his mental state needed to match the technique, and he could not back down. So what if there are 4 of you? If you want to compete with me for the divine object, then work together and bring it on. Li Changxing's voice was calm and emotionless. Arrogant enough. You truly do have the right to be arrogant, but sometimes arrogance comes with a price. Long Guanyu was holding a short saber with 7 gems embedded in it. It was the 7-star saber that Cao Cao used to assassinate Dong Zhuo. The 10,000 Zhang Mountain was famous for its saber techniques. Long Guanyu was also known as the Saber Grandmaster. Once, he and Gongzu Junfeng were known as the Saber Grandmaster. Unfortunately, Gongzu Junfeng was one step ahead in cultivation. Long Guanyu's reputation was not as good as Gongzu Junfeng's, but he still could not be underestimated. Li Changsheng, if you change your mind now and are willing to share the divine object with us, we can avoid a battle. Daoist Juishin of Mount Prajna also spoke. Even if the 4 of them joined forces to face Li Changsheng, he still had no certainty of victory. Why waste your breath on him? Do you think the 4 of us are afraid of him? Yin Yao of the Dark Azura Hall coldly said. Sun Luo Temple was a great sect of the evil sect, and its members had always been unscrupulous in their actions. They were different from others. Others would naturally think of peace before resorting to force, but Yin Yao was filled with murderous intent towards Li Changsheng from the very beginning. The four figures stood in a row. Before they even made a move, a powerful aura spread out like a tsunami. The violent wind on the top of the mysterious yellow mountain was covered by the aura, and it was suffocating. These were all experts at the peak of the Vajra realm. Each of them might not be as strong as Gongzu Junfeng, but when the two of them joined forces, even Gongzu Junfeng would have to retreat. When the four of them joined forces, their power was even more terrifying. This was also why Gongzu Junfeng did not dare to have the thought of monopolizing the treasure from the very beginning. When the four experts joined forces, many people felt a surge of emotion. They knew that the next earth-shattering battle would definitely be recorded in the annals of the cultivation world. This Li Changsheng might be powerful, but he is too arrogant. I'm afraid he won't be able to escape death. Zhong Penghai of the Stargazing Pavilion thought to himself. At this moment, Yin Yao of the Dark Azura Hall was the first to make a move. An iron chain streaked across the sky and directly struck towards Li Changsheng's face. This move of Yin Yao's made the expressions of Zheng Wenshan and the others, who were also in the Vajra realm, change slightly. The Dark Azura Hall was notorious for its ferocity. Who knew how many sects they had destroyed and how many artifacts they had plundered? As the Hall Master of the Dark Azura Hall, Yin Yao had the title of Yama of many treasures. This is the soul binding chain. It was refined from iron outside the meteorite. It has both the divine soul and the physical body. Yin Yao's move is indeed extraordinary. Someone in the crowd recognized this artifact and sighed. Li Changsheng stood there. When the iron chain was 10 meters away from him, he felt a powerful energy invading his mind. It was as if tens of thousands of steel needles were pricking his skin. A spiritual attack. Unfortunately, it's too weak. Li Changsheng snorted coldly. Lightning flashed in his eyes. The pain was instantly dispelled when the lightning flew out of his eyes. At the same time, he waved his fist and smashed it on the iron chain like a spear. Bang! The instant the fist and the iron chain collided, a rumbling sound rang out in the sky. Surging energy spread out in all directions with the two at the center. Everywhere it passed, countless rocks were shattered. Some of the spectators who were swept by the energy were directly cut in half. Powerful experts also spat out blood. In the distance, the blue stone under Tong Xin's feet was also shattered into countless pieces. Fortunately, Li Changsheng acted in time to protect him. Otherwise, with his current strength, this kind of attack would have instantly turned him into ashes. And at this time, Taoist Zhu Xian of the Great Wisdom Mountain also acted. A sword light suddenly appeared like the cold moonlight in the night, pouring down on Li Changsheng's body. It was the cold moon sword of the Great Wisdom Mountain. It was said that every generation of disciples of the Great Wisdom Mountain would cultivate in seclusion in a cold pond on the Great Wisdom Mountain. Once the sword was used, 1,000 miles of ice would be sealed. It could instantly destroy a person's internal organs. Break for me. Li Changsheng did not care at all. The Ru Xian immortal sword in his hand condensed into a thread and collided with Taoist Zhu Xian's cold moon sword, directly blocking the sword light. Take this move of mine. Long Guanyu of the Great Wisdom Mountain finally made his move. The 7-star saber turned into a 10-meter-long sword light that slashed down in an extremely domineering manner. The techniques of the Great Wisdom Mountain were passed down from the school of the military. The saber was the hegemon of hundreds of weapons. When this saber descended, it had the aura of one man holding back 10,000 men. If this person was placed in ancient times, he would definitely be a fierce general who could take the head of a general in front of 10,000 soldiers. Come. Li Changsheng did not have any intention of retreating in the face of this sharp saber light. He swung his fist and punched out choosing to meet force with force. He wanted to use the strength of his body to resist this divine weapon. Boom! It was as if the mountains were collapsing and the earth was splitting. It was as if two high-speed trains had collided. The entire Mount Xianhuang shook violently, and a huge crack appeared under their feet. Long Guanyu's saber light was directly shattered by the fist, and Li Changxing's knees sank into the ground. Tong Xian, who was watching from afar, almost cried out in alarm. And at this time, Zheng Wenshan of the profound Yang Pavilion finally made his move. The 13 strategies of spring and autumn. Behind him, 13 bamboo swords flew out and turned into 13 mountains. They lined up in a line and pressed down on Li Changsheng. Zheng Wenshan had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. At this moment, he wanted to kill Li Changsheng in one fell swoop. Chapter 687. Li Changsheng, no matter how strong your cultivation is, I will make sure that you die without a burial ground today. Zheng Wenshan's voice was loud and clear as it resounded throughout heaven and earth. As the pavilion lord of the mystic Yang Pavilion, he cultivated a righteous aura. Since ancient times, there were only a few people who could cultivate the 13 strategies of spring and autumn to the phenomenal stage. However, Zheng Wenshan did it. The 13 artifact swords formed a line and separated heaven and earth, as though it was going to split heaven and earth. However, Li Changsheng didn't care at all. He raised his palm and formed a giant palm print that went against the 13 artifact swords. Palm, 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 palm. The sharp sword light collided with the giant palm print, and the sound of explosions continued to ring out. However, no matter how sharp the sword light was, Li Changxing's palm was like a reef in the sea. It was firm and strong, regardless of the wind. Zheng Wenshan's expression finally changed. He kept casting his art to increase the power of the flying swords. The 13 flying swords slashed on Li Changxing's palm like wheels, but they couldn't break through the defense of his palm. Everyone, let's work together. Otherwise, we won't be able to deal with this thief. Long Guanyu of the 100,000 feet mountain shouted and attacked Li Changxing's back with his 7-star artifact saber. They knew that if they didn't work together, they would be defeated by Li Changxing sooner or later. Dying. A book appeared on the back of Yin Yao of the Sun Luo Hall. The book glowed brightly as countless ancient words pressed down on Li Changxing like mountains. Earth Book, many people exclaimed. This was the Sun Luo Hall's cornerstone treasure. The first hall master of the Sun Luo Hall obtained it from the ancient ruins and had boundless power. Daoist Juexin of the Wisdom Mountain also slashed down with his cold moon sword. The 4 of them attacked at the same time, and the terrifying energy wreaked havoc in the sky. The 4 of them were the true pinnacle figures of the Northern Lands cultivation world. They didn't need much words to coordinate with each other. It was as though they had practiced this countless times. To be able to make 4 peak stage Vajra realm experts work together, this Li Changsheng might be dead. Zhong Pinghai, who was in the crowd, muttered to himself. If he can defeat 4 peak stage Vajra realm experts, he will replace the mountain gazing tower master's position in the Northern Land. Someone was discussing in a low voice. It said that the mountain viewing tower's master died an unnatural death half a year ago. Mount Xianhuang is very wary of this matter. Could it be related to this young man? Someone guessed. How is this possible? How old is he? I heard that the mountain viewing tower master died because of his own qi deviation. Because the sects in the northern reaches had sealed off the news, the death of the mountain gazing tower master had long since become the biggest mystery in the northern reaches. There were many speculations. Rumble. In the midst of everyone's discussion, the attacks of the 4 experts had already arrived in front of Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng gently waved his hand, and the sword light of the heart's wishful sword soared into the sky, then slashed down in front of him. Hula! The cyan light broke apart all 13 of Zheng Wenshan's bamboo swords. At the same time, Li Changsheng rushed out of the encirclement of the 4 people like a big bird. After his body flew high into the air, he turned around and slashed down in the direction of the four people. The sword light connected the heavens and the earth like the might of the heavens. It was like a river of stars descending, sweeping down with great gravity. The four Vajra realm martial experts were all sent flying by this attack, and there were traces of blood at the corner of their mouths. He had actually gained the upper hand in a one-on-one battle against four powerful cultivators. Everyone who witnessed this scene felt their mouths go dry. What kind of strength was this? Die. Li Chongqing's figure descended from the sky. He actually kept the heart's wishful sword and brandished his fist. His body turned into an afterimage as he rushed towards the hall master of the Sun Luo Hall, Yin Yao. With this punch, the wind and clouds changed color. The ancient characters that flew out from Yin Yao's earth book were all shattered into streams of light under the punch. At the same time, when the punch landed on the earth book, this artifact that had been passed down for thousands of years was actually shattered from the middle and scattered on the ground. Yin Yao didn't have time to feel sorry for the broken artifact. He quickly retreated. The strength of Li Chongqing's punch was too terrifying. He didn't dare to take it head-on, but it was obviously too late to dodge now. That punch carried a rumbling sound as it crashed onto Yin Yao's chest. Bang! There was a crisp sound. Yin Yao's eyes were filled with shock. His body exploded from the middle and turned into a mist of blood that fluttered in the air. The hall master of the Sun Luo Hall, Yin Yao, was dead. After killing Yin Yao, Li Chongqing immediately turned his head and targeted Taoist Zhu Xian of the Wisdom Mountain. He stomped on the ground and shot towards Taoist Zhu Xian like an arrow released from a bow. Taoist Zhu Xian's expression changed drastically. After witnessing Yin Yao's death, how could he still have the courage to face it? At this moment, he subconsciously slashed out with his sword. A bright moon appeared in front of him. However, Li Chongqing instantly rushed into the bright moon. Immediately after, the bright moon shattered in the air as his fist crashed onto the cold moon sword. The extremely sharp cold moon sword instantly broke into a pile of fragments. In the end, the fist pierced through Taoist Zhu Xian's chest and sent him flying. When he landed on the ground, he was already dead. This punch just happened to smash Taoist Zhu Xian's heart. The name Zhu Xian came true. Li Chongqing turned around and looked at Long Guanyu and Tseng Wenshan who were left. At this moment, even Tseng Wenshan, who was nurturing a ball of righteousness in his chest, felt terrified. Long Guanyu, who was known as the Saber Master, even found it difficult to breathe. Li Chongqing was too strong, like a demon god. Mr. Li, please don't attack. I'm willing to give up the divine item that appeared in Mount Xianwang. Long Guanyu had just opened his mouth. In the next moment, a huge handprint had already descended from the sky and slapped towards him. Li Chongqing attacked without hesitation. Previously, Li Chongqing had given them several chances, but they had staked everything on this one throw. Now that they saw how powerful Li Chongqing was, they wanted to beg for mercy. How could it be so easy? Surnamed Li, you've gone too far. Originally, he thought that Li Chongqing would be willing to spare his life if he begged for mercy. He didn't expect that Li Chongqing wouldn't give him a chance to live at all. Long Guanyu was furious. The sky-high handprint descended with the power of 10,000. It was like the hand of the heavens that wanted to obliterate everything. Long Guanyu slashed out with the 7-star treasure saber in his hand and used all his strength. However, it was still useless. The 7-star treasure saber that had been passed down for thousands of years turned into scrap metal onto the palm. At the same time, Long Guanyu was also slapped into the ground by the handprint. When the handprint disappeared, his entire body had been slapped into a meat patty. Of the 8 peak stage Vajra realm experts, only Tseng Wenshan of the Profound Sun Pavilion was left. Tseng Wenshan gritted his teeth. He knew that Li Chongqing wouldn't let him go. He actually forced the 13 swords into one and burned a secret art. At this moment, his aura skyrocketed without limit, and he actually broke through to the Finger Profound realm. I'll fight it out with you. Tseng Wenshan's eyes were red, and he was on the verge of madness. Although he burned a secret art and broke through to the finger-profound realm, this was only temporary. After this battle, he would immediately fall to the Vajra realm and keep falling. There was only one moment in this life where he could appreciate the glory of the finger-profound realm. The fused 13 swords of spring and autumn slashed at Li Changsheng. However, so what if he was at the finger-profound realm? Li Changsheng raised his fist and smashed that flying sword into pieces with one punch. At the same time, he rushed to Tingwen Shan's side and smashed a fist on his head. This expert who just broke through to the finger-profound realm had his head and body completely separated. The battle ended. All 8 peak stage Vajra realm experts died in Li Changsheng's hands. On the mountain peak, Li Changsheng stood proudly alone. I'm invincible. Chapter 688. On the peak of Mount Xianhuang, Li Changsheng stood quietly. Countless eyes were looking at that figure with complicated feelings of shock and awe. 8 peak stage Vajra realm experts had all died in his hands. This battle record was heart-palpitating. Zhong Penghai, who was in the crowd, was even trembling. There is actually such a powerful person in this world. It seems like the star-gazing pavilion's outcome is already very good. Tong Xian ran to Li Changsheng excitedly with eyes full of reverence. This was his master. No matter how powerful the experts were, they would all be trampled under his feet. At this moment, Mount Xianhuang suddenly began to shake. There was a rumbling sound coming from inside the mountain. Is the divine item of Mount Xianhuang finally going to be born? Many people were excited. Although they knew that the birth of the divine item had nothing to do with them, it was still something to be excited about to witness the birth of the divine item with their own eyes. As the rumbling sound came, the entire sky was covered in red. Even the sun turned red. The birth of the divine item affected the weather. The tremors under their feet became more intense. Many people began to sway and lose their balance. Li Changsheng held Tong Xian's hand and stood quietly, waiting. Rumble! The rumbling sound in the mountain grew louder. Suddenly, a red light shot up into the sky and connected the heaven and earth. A huge crimson snake followed the red light and flew to the top of the mountain. I didn't expect the divine item of Mount Xianhuang to be a huge snake. Many people cried out in surprise. Most people only knew that a divine item was about to be born in Mount Xianhuang, but they didn't know what it was. The huge snake flew out and went straight into the clouds, puffing out clouds. Many people looked up at the sky and were dazzled. Because all the Vajra realm experts had been killed by Li Changsheng, the others didn't have the guts to compete with Li Changsheng for the divine item. Therefore, the appearance of the huge snake wasn't obstructed at all. Master, this divine item is about to be born. Don't you need to capture it? Tong Xian asked curiously. At the top of the hill, he heard a lot of talk. Gongzu Junfeng and the others had originally planned to wait for the snake to be born before joining forces to kill it and divide the treasures on its body. In Tong Xian's eyes, it would be better if he could keep the snake as a pet, but the prerequisite was that he had to subdue it first. Tong Xian was not the only one who had such doubts. The countless spectators on a mountain peak were also very confused. Why is this Li Changsheng allowing that huge snake to fly up into the sky? Look at that huge snake swallowing clouds and spitting out fog. Its aura is getting stronger and stronger. Could it be that he still has some kind of follow-up method to suppress that huge snake? Could it be that he saw that the snake was too strong, so he didn't dare to attack? Perhaps he has already suffered serious injuries from the battle with the Vajra realm martial experts and doesn't have the strength to subdue the giant snake now. Someone proposed this conjecture. Immediately, Li Changsheng felt countless gazes land on him, faintly containing killing intent. These people actually thought that Li Changsheng was only strong in appearance and was actually weak in reality. They thought that there was an opportunity for them to take advantage of his severe injuries. In the next second, a sword light suddenly flew out from the crowd and went straight for Li Changsheng's chest. Zhong Penghai actually made a move. You are courting death. Facing the flying artifact sword, Li Changsheng only flicked his finger gently. In the next second, Zhong Penghai's chest was struck by a stream of light and flew out horizontally. Before he landed, he had already lost all signs of life. This time, those who were originally restless felt as if a basin of cold water had been poured over their heads. They no longer dared to have any thoughts of taking the risk. Although everyone had dismissed the idea of attacking Li Changsheng, the doubts in their hearts were getting deeper. As the huge snake was born, it was getting stronger and stronger. Furthermore, it could escape at any time, but Li Changsheng didn't seem to have any intention of attacking. What was going on? Everyone couldn't understand. Finally, the red clouds in the sky were all swallowed into the stomach of the huge snake. Two bulges could be seen on the head of the huge snake, which was a sign that it was about to transform into a flood dragon. Roar! A long roar shook the nine heavens. A fiery red inner core flew out of the huge snake's mouth. The surging chi of heaven and earth all gathered in the inner core. Then it directly flew down from the sky and landed on the top of the mountain. The huge power turned several huge rocks into powder. The huge snake held its head high and looked down at Li Changsheng as if it was showing off its strength. Li Changsheng raised his head and looked at the huge red snake quietly. He said, "You are indeed many times stronger than when you were in the spirit vein, but it doesn't mean that you can treat me with such an attitude." Li Changsheng frowned slightly. He was very dissatisfied with the huge snake's condescending attitude at the moment. "That's right. You protected me in the belly of the mountain, and I did agree to let you be my master. However, you should be able to feel my current strength. I'm afraid that I'm stronger than the finger-profound realm that you humans speak of. Then, wouldn't it be inappropriate for such a powerful divine creature like me to be your pet? I feel that we should redefine the relationship between you and me. You helped me, and I can protect you by your side for 3 years. However, our relationship shouldn't be that of master and servant. We should treat each other as equals because I have great potential in the future. Sooner or later, I will transform into a divine dragon. So, between the two of us, you have to listen to me." The huge snake's voice sounded directly in Li Changsheng's mind. The huge snake's eyes were filled with arrogance. Before it was born, it was still afraid of Li Changsheng's strength. However, at this moment, its strength had skyrocketed, and its heart had also swelled. A beast is indeed a beast, cowardly and fearless. Li Changsheng snorted coldly. In the next second, the huge snake let out a sharp and terrifying cry. It actually turned around and fled into the distance. However, Li Changsheng would not give a chance. He suddenly stretched out his palm and turned it into a giant palm print. He pinched its tail and pulled it back, and then slammed it hard on the ground. Bang! A deep trench, a few meters deep, was formed on the top of the mountain. The huge snake's crimson body wanted to resist. Li Changsheng waved his hand, and a sword light appeared out of thin air. It directly pierced through the huge snake's body and nailed it to the ground. The battle happened in an instant, and many people could not react in time. By the time they reacted, the huge snake had already been subdued by Li Changsheng. Too powerful. Just now, when that divine creature was in the sky, I felt that even the strongest cultivator in the world would have a hard time subduing it. I didn't expect Li Changsheng to take it down so easily. This is called turning the hand over to summon clouds, and turning the hand over to summon rain. Countless people were overwhelmed with emotions and were completely stunned by the scene in front of them. This was true strength. Do you still want to be on equal footing with me? Li Changsheng walked in front of the huge snake. The huge snake's head was bigger than Li Changsheng's body. However, at this moment, Li Changsheng was standing there, and there was only fear in the eyes of the huge snake. I'll give you 3 seconds to consider. If you're willing to be my pet, nod your head. If not, I'll skin you right here and now and refine you into a magic tool. 3, 2. Chapter 689. Seeing the serpent lower its proud head, Li Changsheng withdrew the heart's will sword from its body. At the same time, he waved his arm, and the bleeding wound healed at a visible rate. At the top of the mountain, everyone watched this scene quietly. They were all dumbfounded by Li Changsheng's methods. Since you've submitted to me, you can stay by my side and cultivate in peace. Li Changsheng raised his hand again. The fully healed serpent turned into a streak of red light and gradually shrank. It flew to Li Changsheng's wrist and turned into a crimson bracelet that flowed with a red radiance. Because Li Changsheng had created too many miracles, the crowd was no longer surprised. At this moment, a palace halfway up Mount Xianhuang was surrounded by a dense array of formations. There were also several dozen cultivators of extraordinary strength standing guard here. These cultivators came from various cultivation sects, and their mission was to watch over the formations. Inside the palace, the master of Mount Xianhuang, Yao Fengchun, sat there with a group of disciples with dejected expressions. I wonder what the situation outside is like. No one would be in a good mood after being imprisoned for more than a month. All the sects are fighting over the divine items of Mount Xianhuang, and Mr. Li is missing. We're under his orders to guard the treasures. If Mr. Li returns and finds out that the treasures have been taken away, what should we do if he gets angry? Yao Fengchun's tone was filled with worry. The people around her didn't say a word. They had already gotten used to Yao Fengchun's mutterings over the past few days. What, Mr. Li? Yao, if you have the time, you should worry about your own safety. A sect elder in charge of guarding the place sat at the door. When he heard Yao Fengchun's words, he scowled coldly. The treasures of Mount Xianhuang are Mr. Li's. You'll suffer for taking his treasures. Yao Fengchun shouted. What bullshit, Mr. Li? Can he be stronger than our sect master? This elder was an expert from Sunluo Temple. Sunluo Temple was one of the great sects of the demonic sections. The other sect leaders in charge of guarding the place were usually polite to Yao Fengchun's group out of consideration for their sect's reputation. However, this Luo Lin of Sunluo Temple mocked Yao Fengchun daily. Sometimes, Yao Fengchun's words would make him unhappy and he would punish her. Unfortunately, Yao Fengchun's cultivation was sealed and could only endure the humiliation. So what if you're from Sunluo Temple? Even if everyone from the Dark Azura Temple, including the sect master, attacked together, they would still not be able to withstand one slap from Mr. Li. Yao Fengchun scornfully curled her lips. However, just as he finished speaking, he saw a blur in front of his eyes. Then, he was sent flying and crashed into the wall. It was Luo Lin. Slut. Mouth. I'll beat you to die. As he spoke, he stepped forward and grabbed Yao Fengchun's hair. Then, he slapped Yao Fengchun's face a dozen times. Yao Fengchun's cultivation was sealed, but she was still an expert. Her body was many times stronger than an ordinary person's. Even so, her face was still swollen and several of her teeth flew out. None of the disciples of Mount Xianhuang dared to stop him. They were already used to it and were numb. If they dared to protect Yao Fengchun, they would receive an even harsher punishment. A few days ago, a disciple of Mount Xianhuang was beaten to death in front of them. Yao, today is the day the treasures of Mount Xianhuang will appear. Where's your Mr. Li? I'm afraid he's already shivering in fear after hearing the name of our sect master. The Sunluo Temple elder had a disdainful expression. As for you, when the dust settles after the distribution of the treasures, I'll have the sect master bestow you to me. Hee. Luo Lin smiled evilly. Yang Fengchun couldn't help but shiver. These days, she had a deep understanding of this Sunluo Temple elder's character. She knew that if she fell into his hands, her life would be worse than death. Yao Fengchun's eyes revealed some sorrow. She originally thought that with the death of the mountain observing tower master and her control of Mount Xianhuang, the good days would begin. Who would have thought that such a nightmare would come? Mr. Li, just where are you? Yao Fengchun's heart was calling out. This was her only hope. As long as Li Changsheng appeared, he would be able to free her from this abyss of evil. However, she had been waiting day after day and was now in despair. Luo Lin let go of Yao Fengchun's hair. Suddenly, The ground beneath his feet shook as he saw a figure coldly staring at him. Luo Lin frowned. Which sector are you from? Don't you know the rules? Is this hall a place you can enter as you please? Li Changsheng looked young, and there were several sects in charge of guarding Yao Fengshan. Even Luo Lin couldn't recognize all of them. At this time, seeing the figure at the door, Yao Fengshan's eyes were immediately filled with excitement. Mr. Li, you're finally here. You're that Mr. Li? Luo Lin's face revealed a cautious expression. Although his words were filled with disdain for Li Changsheng, he didn't dare to underestimate him in his heart. This is where the 8 great sects imprison the sinners of Mount Xianwang. If you don't want to oppose the 8 great sects, please leave quickly, Luo Lin said loudly. He was still somewhat unconfident facing Li Changsheng alone. The 8 great sects are nothing. Seeing Yao Fengshan's appearance, Li Changsheng's eyes were filled with coldness as he strode inside. Stop right now, or I won't be polite. Luo Lin reached out his arm to stop Li Changsheng. However, in the next second, his body flew out and landed several meters away, coughing up large mouthfuls of blood. He struggled to stand up, but Li Changsheng's foot stomped on his chest. Was it you who beat her up like that? Fear finally appeared in Luo Lin's eyes. In any case, he was a grandmaster, but he didn't even have time to react before he was heavily injured. At this time, footsteps came from outside. Who's there? You dare to trespass into the area guarded by the 8 great sects? 3 old men led a group of disciples in from behind. When they saw Luo Lin being stepped on, fear appeared in their eyes. Even though they were very disdainful of a big, evil sect like the Sun Luo Temple, they still admired Luo Lin's strength. Release Elder Luo, or don't blame us for being rude. One of the old men had just spoken, but in the next second, there was a poochie sound as Li Changsheng stomped down without hesitation. Luo Lin's body exploded from the stomp, turning into a bloody mist. The pungent smell of blood assaulted their nostrils. The 3 old men in the lead all had crazed expressions, revealing murderous intent. After hearing his warning, Li Changsheng did this in front of them. Without a doubt, he didn't put them in his eyes and was provoking them. You're courting death. The old man who had spoken earlier was already charging at Li Changsheng. Attack together. The other 2 also joined the battle. Since Li Changsheng could kill Luo Lin, he couldn't be underestimated. Chapter 690. The 3 elders attacked Li Changsheng at the same time. All 3 of them were at the Khanate realm and possessed extraordinary auras. However, the first one had just gotten close when Li Changsheng slapped him into a bloody mist. When the remaining 2 saw this scene, they were scared out of their wits. They wanted to stop, but in the next second, Li Changsheng gently flicked his finger again, and the 2 fell to the ground at the same time. A bloody hole appeared where their hearts were, and they couldn't be more dead. At this moment, the entire place fell silent. The disciples brought by the 3 elders were so scared that they didn't dare to move. Li Changsheng helped Yao Fengshan up and removed the seal on her body, helping the disciples of Mount Xianwang recover their cultivation. When Li Changsheng led the group outside, the disciples opened up a path for him. Several figures were rushing over from the distance. The other guards had probably heard the commotion, for elders and several dozen disciples arrived in a grandiose manner. They blocked Li Changsheng's path. Scram if you don't want to die. Li Changsheng's killing intent surged. However, none of them moved aside. They only sneered, clearly not taking Li Changsheng seriously because they had the advantage in numbers. One can survive a heaven-sent disaster, but one cannot forgive a self-inflicted disaster. Li Changsheng waved his hand, and sword light swept forward like a wave. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. Dozens of heads flew into the air. Several seconds later, the 4 elders and several dozen disciples were all decapitated. Not a single one survived. At this moment, the disciples were so scared that their legs went weak. They had never seen such a savage person. I said that if you help me protect the incubation item, I will guarantee your position in Mount Xianwang. Tomorrow, you can announce to the outside world that Mount Xianhuang belongs to me, Li Changsheng. No one will dare offend you again, Li Changsheng said to Yao Fengshan. But what if they don't listen? A Mount Xianhuang disciple boldly interjected. Indeed, Yao Fengshan had mentioned Li Changsheng's name many times during the gathering of the major sects at Mount Xianhuang, but those people didn't care at all. After this experience, the people of Mount Xianhuang were already traumatized. The past is the past, and the present is the present. Now, as long as you mention the name Li Changsheng, no one will dare to be disrespectful. Hearing Li Changsheng's words, the disciple still had some doubts in his heart, but he didn't dare to speak again. I've already obtained the divine item from Mount Xianhuang, so I'll take my leave now. In a month, I'll be establishing a sect in the capital. You can come and observe the ceremony then. After Li Changsheng finished speaking, he left with Tong Xian. Yao Fengshan didn't dare to ask him to stay. She led the disciples back to the main hall of Mount Xianhuang. At this time, many disciples began to descend the mountain. Yao Fengshan asked the disciples to scout for information. Half an hour later, the disciples who had gone to inquire about Li Changsheng's battle at the top of the mysterious Yellow Mountain was now known to everyone. The disciple who originally doubted Li Changsheng only felt shock in his heart at this moment. Just this battle alone had made Li Changsheng's name known to all cultivators in the world, let alone the cultivators of the northern lands. He had become famous in one fell swoop. Li Changsheng left Mount Xianhuang and returned to the capital with Tong Xian. The journey was calm and uneventful. As soon as he entered the capital, the prosperity of the capital left Tong Xian in awe. He had only seen descriptions of the capital in textbooks before. A village child coming to a first-tier metropolis in the country was full of surprises. Many village children were mesmerized by the bright lights of the capital as soon as they entered. In fact, it was completely understandable. With the changes in life and the temptation of money, how many people could scrupulously abide by their nature? Even cultivators found it difficult to do so. This was also why there was such a thing as mortal heart tempering. After leaving the station, they hailed a taxi and headed to the suburbs. When the taxi driver heard the destination, he immediately showed an "I understand" expression. "Brother, you're also going to see this strange scenery at the top of the mountain, right? I heard that there's a villa on the mountain where immortals live. It's surrounded by clouds all day long. Nowadays, many people go to see it. However, the villa on the top of the mountain is private and not open to the public." The taxi driver was very talkative and talked nonstop along the way. Is there really an immortal on the mountain? Tong Xian looked at Li Changsheng next to him and asked. In his heart, Li Changsheng was an immortal. There's no such thing as an immortal. What era is this? Superstitions are still involved. Furthermore, experts have come out to refute the rumors. They said that the clouds on the mountain are completely normal weather changes. They even listed a lot of evidence. Although I don't understand it, it seems to make sense. Hearing the driver's words, Li Changsheng could not help but smile. Experts and beasts were the same. They were both creatures that could not be trusted. The car stopped at the foot of the mountain. Li Changsheng took Tong Xian up the mountain. Along the way, they saw many people taking pictures with cameras. Li Changsheng had originally built the villa in the suburbs because he did not want to attract attention. He did not expect that it would be like a market now. It seems that I have to think of a way to prevent these tourists from gathering here. Otherwise, with so many people coming and going every day, how can the people living on the mountain cultivate in peace? When they were halfway up the mountain, they saw a stone tablet in front of them. On it were the words, "Tourists are not allowed." Many people stopped when they reached this place. They were more self-aware. This stone tablet should have been set up by Lu Chong and the others after Li Changsheng left. Li Changsheng took Tong Xian directly over the stone tablet and walked forward. "Hello, come out quickly. The people on the mountain are very fierce. A few days ago, someone didn't listen to advice and was beaten black and blue. I heard that he's a company CEO and has a lot of power. Originally, he wanted to find trouble with the owner of the villa, but then there was no news. I heard that the owner of the villa is very powerful, and ordinary people can't afford to offend him. When Li Changsheng heard the other party's words, he finally understood why so many tourists did not cross this line. It turned out that it was not because of good manners, but because they had learned a lesson from the mistakes of others. "It's okay. I know the owner of the villa," Li Changsheng said. They continued to walk forward. However, the other party rolled his eyes and muttered, "These days, people don't even think about how to brag. Since you don't listen to advice, you deserve to be beaten out later." The other party's muttering was not loud, but how could it escape Li Changsheng's ears? Li Changsheng just smiled and continued to walk forward. However, less than 10 steps later, a loud roar suddenly came. "Stop! Tourists are not allowed to enter the cloud-top villa. Leave now." A fair-looking young man with a wooden stick in his hand was staring at Li Changsheng. He probably wanted to put on a dignified look, but because he was too young, no murderous intent could be seen. However, the moment this young man appeared, many tourists put down their cameras. They heard from the crowd. It was this young man who broke the boss's leg that day. That guy is finished. This young man is not to be trifled with. Chapter 691. The Cloudtop Villa is not accepting visitors. Please leave quickly. The young man looked to be about 15 or 16 years old. At this moment, he was glaring at Li Changsheng fiercely. "I'm the owner of the Cloudtop Villa. How can I be stopped when I'm returning to my own villa?" Li Changsheng smiled. Although it was his first time seeing the young man, he could guess that he should be someone recruited by Lu Chong. Looking at the young man's bright eyes, it was obvious that he had already embarked on the path of cultivation. He was a good seedling. Wulsh *T. What a load of nonsense. You're the owner of this villa. Why haven't I seen you before? The young man looked at Li Changsheng with an unfriendly expression. Li Changsheng was about to explain something when the other party suddenly rushed toward Li Changsheng. His fist brought a gust of wind and directly hit Li Changsheng. When the surrounding spectators saw this situation, they all stared at the scene to watch the show. Although this young man is young, he's very powerful. Whoever dares to provoke him will be in for a bad time. I heard that the person who went up the mountain a few days ago was carried down the mountain on a stretcher. The young man was young, but it was obvious that he was notorious in the vicinity of this villa. Seeing that his fist was almost in front of Li Changsheng, and Li Changsheng still hadn't reacted, the young man's face showed some disdain. But soon, the expression on his face became stiff because the punch that he thought was extremely powerful was easily caught by Li Changsheng's raised hand. He struggled a few times, but he couldn't break free. In the next second, Li Changsheng's hand shook slightly, and the young man took a few steps back like a marionette. When he looked at Li Changsheng again, his eyes were full of shock. He knew that he had met a tough opponent this time. The surrounding spectators were also shocked. They didn't expect that Li Changsheng, who looked ordinary, was actually an expert. "Enemies are here to challenge us," the young man shouted at the top of his lungs. Since he was no match for him, he naturally had to find help. As soon as he shouted, there was movement at the top of the mountain. Several figures could be seen rushing over. Beating up the young has provoked the old. This young man's martial arts is so high. When his elders come, they will be even stronger. It's over. This kid has poked a hornet's nest this time. Last time, the rich merchant was beaten so badly that he couldn't even get up. This time, I'm afraid that his legs will be broken. More and more people gathered to watch, and they were discussing animatedly. He cast a pitiful look at Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng, however, had an indifferent look on his face. He just stood there and waited quietly. A few minutes later, several figures appeared. Wang Hua, who's causing trouble? A figure in a Taoist robe appeared beside the young man and asked, "It's him." Wang Hua pointed at Li Changsheng. The other party raised his head. His face was filled with surprise at first, but it quickly turned into joy. "Mr. Li, you're back?" The one in front was Taoist Master Lu Chong. Soon after, Azu and Zhou Hong arrived. After seeing Li Changsheng, Zhou Hong hurriedly stepped forward and saluted, "Greetings, Master." The crowd below was in an uproar. It was said that there were immortals living in the Cloud Top Villa. Looking at the skills of Lu Chong and the others, even if they were not immortals, they were still hidden masters. However, these people all saluted a young man. The young man named Wang Hua was completely dumbfounded. He stammered, "Senior brother Zhou Hong, is he really master?" After seeing Zhou Hong nod, Wang Hua knelt on the ground with a plop. "I, Wang Hua, am unfilial. I didn't know master's true face and offended you. Please forgive me, master." Disciple. Li Changsheng was also a little dumbfounded. However, seeing more and more people gathering, he said to Zhou Hong, "Let's go up the mountain and talk." Zhou Hong naturally didn't dare to disobey Li Changsheng's order. Several people clustered around Li Changsheng and walked to the top of the mountain. Along the way, Zhou Hong explained to Li Changsheng. Only then did Li Changsheng know that Wang Hua was sent up by a martial arts family after Li Changsheng left. That martial arts family discovered Wang Hua's cultivation talent. But because of the family's limited resources, they heard about Li Changsheng's deeds from somewhere and sent Wang Hua up the mountain, wanting to become Li Changsheng's disciple. Zhou Hong saw that Wang Hua's martial arts talent was very unusual, but because Li Changsheng wasn't in the capital, he didn't dare to make the decision. He decided to let Wang Hua stay first and wait for Li Changsheng to come back to see what Li Changsheng wanted to do. Wang Hua had a young temperament and good cultivation talent. He practiced martial arts from a young age and was more powerful than the average martial arts master. He was also unlike Zhou Hong and Lu Chong, who could stay. When he learned that many tourists came to the mountain every day to take photos, which annoyed Lu Chong and the others, he volunteered and named himself Mountain Patrol Envoy and set up a stone tablet on the mountain path. Whoever dared to cross the stone tablet, he would immediately teach them a lesson. A few days ago, a boss broke through and insulted Wang Hua because of his identity. As a result, he was beaten half to death by Wang Hua. In the past, he was restrained by the elders at home. Now, in the villa, Zhou Hong was busy cultivating every day, and Lu Chong was difficult to discipline because he was likely to become Li Changsheng's disciple. After beating someone, Wang Hua wasn't punished. Wang Hua was completely relieved. Every day, he hid in the dark and quietly waited for people to cross the stone tablet so that he could teach them a lesson. But he didn't expect that the rich man he beat was so ruthless that he was already infamous. For several days, no one crossed the line. Today, he happened to meet Li Changsheng. But who would have thought that Li Changsheng was that mysterious master? Wang Hua had been warned by the elders at home that the master he was going to study under was a super strong master. He must not make his master unhappy. So when he learned about Li Changsheng's identity, he immediately knelt down and apologized. At this time, Li Changsheng was walking in front, and he was following behind dejectedly. At the same time, he was quietly looking at Li Changsheng's back. Li Changsheng's image was very different from what he had imagined. In his imagination, Li Changsheng should at least be like Lu Chong, wearing a Taoist robe with fluttering sleeves and having an awe-inspiring, immortal aura. But Wang Hua didn't expect that Li Changsheng would look like this, wearing casual clothes with short hair. If Li Changsheng hadn't blocked his punch, he might not have recognized him as his master. My family has been praising him so much. Is he really that powerful? Wang Hua muttered. They went up the mountain, and Li Changsheng sat down in the main seat. Zhou Hong, Tong Xian, and Wang Hua stood aside. Lu Chong and Azu also sat down under Li Changsheng's signal. At this time, Li Changsheng announced, "Tong Xian is my new disciple, my second disciple." Then, he introduced to Tong Xian, "This is your eldest senior brother, Zhou Hong." Tong Xian hurriedly cupped his hands and saluted, "Greetings, eldest senior brother." Wait a minute. At this time, Wang Hua couldn't help but say, "If he is the second disciple, won't I be the third disciple? I'm not convinced." Wang Hua was a proud son of God. He had been spoiled at home since he was young, and he fought for the first place in everything. Because he had seen Zhou Hong's power after coming up the mountain, he naturally didn't dare to compete with Zhou Hong for the position of eldest senior brother, not to mention that Zhou Hong had been Li Changsheng's disciple for a long time. But Tong Xian was different. He was younger than him, and his strength seemed to be weaker than him. He didn't necessarily enter Li Changxing's disciple earlier than him, so he immediately protested. The ranking of senior and junior brothers is determined by the time they entered the sect. Your protest is useless. Besides, you haven't officially entered my sect yet. My aptitude is so good. Many people want to take me as their disciple. It's your gain to be your disciple. Wang Hua said loudly. Li Changxing couldn't help but shake his head. Your aptitude is indeed qualified to be my disciple, but you are so arrogant. You dare to talk back to me before entering the sect. It's hard to guarantee that you won't become a rebellious disciple in the future. I'll let you be a nominal disciple first and observe for a few days. If your conduct is not good, I'll inform your family elders to take you back. Li Changxing said coldly. Chapter 692. How can you do this to me? Wang Hua looked at Li Changxing in surprise. He didn't expect that such a good disciple like him would be treated like this. One had to know that in the past, even the most dignified grandfather in the family would still smile whenever he made a mistake. As for the sect masters of those small sects, they would try every means to accept him as a disciple. It was the first time he met such a strict master. If you're not satisfied, you can inform your parents to take you back now. Li Changxing said coldly. Respecting one's master was definitely not just a saying. He had already accepted a traitor before. Now, no matter how good his aptitude was, he had to look at his character first. What's more, although Wang Hua's aptitude was good, he was still a little worse than Tong Xian. Wang Hua was still a child after all. He pouted and almost cried. He felt very wronged, but Li Changxing didn't even look at him. He turned his head and discussed with Lu Chong about the establishment of the sect. The establishment of the sect naturally needed to send out invitations to invite people from all the major sects to attend the ceremony. But Li Changxing thought about it, and only the Sword Dao Alliance. The rest were almost all enemies. As for the name of the sect, Li Changxing decided to name it the Verdant Sect, which symbolized prosperity. The specific matters would be prepared by the eldest disciple, Zhou Hong. Wang Hua was put in his place by Li Changxing. After returning home, he called home. His grandfather, who had always doted on him, directly reprimanded him. On the third day, old Master Wang brought a group of descendants of the Wang family to the mountaintop villa to apologize to Li Changxing. As soon as they entered the door, they all knelt down and asked Li Changxing to calm down. Originally, when he heard that the elders of the family were coming, Wang Hua thought that his grandfather would reprimand him over the phone, but in fact, he was here to seek justice for him. When he saw this scene, he suddenly realized how wrong his thinking was. Old Master Wang was almost 70 years old. Although cultivators had a longer lifespan than ordinary people, his qi and blood had begun to decline. Li Changxing was not an unforgiving person. He allowed them to stand up and finally agreed to accept Wang Hua as his disciple. While Zhou Hong was busy preparing for the establishment of the sect, Li Changxing left the cloud-top villa and went to the Yi family. Yi Shuang did not know that Li Changxing had returned to Beijing. When she saw Li Changxing, she was pleasantly surprised. The originally scheduled itinerary was immediately changed, and he didn't even go to the company. After sitting down in the living room, Li Changxing told Yi Shuang about some of the things that he had experienced during this period of time. Yi Shuang knew that Li Changxing was not an ordinary person, and her eyes shone as she listened. When he heard that an entire fire dragon had turned into a bracelet, he was even more surprised. He carefully touched the bracelet on Li Changxing's wrist with his finger. As soon as she touched it, she let out a cry of surprise. When she retracted her hand, she saw that her finger was already red and swollen. "Are you okay?" Li Changxing was also shocked. He hurriedly grabbed Yi Shuang's hand, took out a pill from his Qinkuan bag, dissolved it in water, and applied it. The red and swollen hand disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye. "Why is it so hot?" Yi Shuang stared at the bracelet on Li Changxing's wrist with lingering fear. "It's nothing. I forgot that it is a fire dragon, and its body temperature is very high. Sorry, it was my mistake." Li Changxing looked at the bracelet on his wrist, and a trace of fierceness flashed in his eyes. This fire dragon was arrogant and unruly. It was unhappy that Yi Shuang was pointing at it, so it deliberately put Yi Shuang in her place. "You are my beast pet. How dare you casually hurt people? I can't forgive you," Li Changsheng said coldly. Then he flicked his finger on the bracelet. Immediately, dense electric light could be seen with the naked eye. It was like a thin net that wrapped around the bracelet. The bracelet kept twisting like a snake that had its tail nailed. At the same time, Li Changsheng heard a shrill scream in his mind, mixed with pleas for mercy. "Master, I won't do it again. Please let me go." Li Changsheng ignored him. He took the apple from Yi Shuang and chatted with Yi Shuang. "By the way, where did Uncle Yi and Auntie Yi go?" Li Changsheng didn't see Haoran and his wife after coming in, so he asked curiously. "My father, he went to a temple in the west of the capital to worship Buddha. Originally, our family didn't believe in Buddhism and Taoism, but since they knew that there were immortals like you, they began to believe in it. A few days ago, an eminent monk came to the temple in the west of the capital. It was said that his wishes there were very effective. My father and the others went there a few times. When they came back, they said that the master was a really capable person. When you come back, they will help you introduce him. The master is very resourceful and will definitely be helpful to you." Hearing Yi Shuang's words, Li Changsheng shook his head. It wasn't that he was arrogant, but what kind of master in the world today was qualified to guide him? Yi Shuang seemed to have read Li Changsheng's mind and said, "Changsheng, I know you are very resourceful, but there is always someone better than you out there. Maybe that master is really an immortal. My dad said that the master can change a person's fate and let a mortal embark on the path of cultivation. I remember you said that if you want to embark on the path of cultivation, you must have enough talent. It is not easy for you to let a mortal embark on the path of cultivation. I was thinking about going to pay my respects to that master one day. If I can also embark on the path of cultivation, then I can live with you." Speaking of this, Yi Shuang's cheeks turned red for no reason. This was actually equivalent to a disguised confession. Yi Shuang secretly glanced at Li Changsheng, wanting to see Li Changsheng's reaction. However, to her disappointment, Li Changsheng didn't notice the message in her tone at all. Indeed, what Li Changsheng was paying attention to now was what Yi Shuang said about being able to let an ordinary person embark on the path of cultivation. Based on this sentence alone, she was definitely a liar. Li Changsheng didn't think much of what Yi Shuang said about a master before. After all, although there weren't many masters of cultivation in the world, there were definitely a lot of them. It was not surprising that there were some people who knew spells. However, the master that Yi Shuang said was obviously full of nonsense. Just as he was thinking about it, the sound of the door opening came from outside. A black Maybach drove into the yard. "My father and the others are back." Yi Shuang hurriedly got up to open the door. Li Changsheng's eyes were fixed on his bracelet. In his eyes, he could see a fire snake with small horns on its head constantly rolling. Its body was covered in wounds and looked very miserable. It was constantly begging him, "Master, I was wrong. That lightning was a kind of thunder method that Li Changsheng cultivated. Once attached to it, it was like going through 1,000 cuts." While he was talking to Yi Shuang, that fire snake had already walked through the gates of hell several times. If Li Changsheng didn't get rid of the lightning, he was afraid that the fire snake would really die in a while. "This is just a small punishment for you. If you dare to not listen to my orders and hurt people in the future, I will skin you and pull out your tendons and refine you into a power item." Li Changsheng put away the lightning as soon as he finished speaking. That fire snake crawled there with a look of awe. Chapter 693. The black sedan stopped in the courtyard. Yi Haoran and his wife got out of the car, but did not enter the house. Instead, they waited respectfully in the courtyard. "Dad, Mom, why don't you enter the house?" Yi Shuang asked in confusion. "Shuang, didn't you go to work today?" Yi Haoran was surprised. Li Changsheng walked out of the house after dealing with Fire Snake. "Changsheng, you're here. Why didn't you tell me in advance so that I could prepare some food for you?" "It's okay. Uncle Yi, you're welcome. Li Changxing smiled and walked into the courtyard. At the same time, he looked in the direction of the door. Sure enough, a business car stopped slowly at the door. Then, Yi Haoran and his wife walked up quickly. This time, the door opened and a monk in a yellow robe walked out. The 9 commandment scars on his head were particularly eye-catching. There were 4 young monks beside the monk. They had an extraordinary aura and gave people the feeling that they were bodyguards instead of monks. Benefactor Yi, is this your house? It's really impressive. The monk seemed to want to say something, but stopped. Master, please speak your mind. Yi Haoran was the head of the Yi family, but he was respectful to the monk. It's just that there's something wrong with the feng shui of this courtyard. If this continues, I'm afraid that you and your family won't live long. What? Yi Haoran's expression changed drastically. Madame Yi, who was next to him, also turned pale. Master, what's going on? Please enlighten us. The ancestral grave of the Yi family is buried on the dragon vein. It should be noble for generations to come. However, because of the problem with the feng shui of this villa, there's a murderous aura in the air. Fortunately, the ancestral shadow of the Yi family offset most of the murderous aura. Otherwise, the Yi family would have been destroyed. Monk Huaikong shook his head with a pained and hateful look. Yi Haoran and his wife's faces had turned as white as paper. Master, you must save our Yi family. Yi Haoran almost knelt down to Monk Huaikong. Li Changsheng looked at the scene with a sneer in his eyes. Since when did monks know how to read feng shui? Wasn't that ridiculous? What master? He was just a charlatan. Thinking of this, Li Changsheng was about to expose him, but he couldn't help but exclaim in his heart. This was because he sensed that there was a very powerful spiritual energy fluctuation on Master Huaikong's body. This meant that the other party was not purely a swindler, but was truly capable. But how could a capable cultivator be full of nonsense? Li Changxing stared at Monk Ruo Kong's face. He felt that although the monk looked kind, he gave him a very strange feeling. Especially his eyes, they were a little thievish. If this fellow were to retract his head and lie on the ground, he would probably become a coward. Thinking of this, Li Changsheng suddenly had a flash of inspiration. How is this a monk? It's clearly a demon, and it's even a turtle. Li Changsheng had lived for countless years. During the pre-Qin period, there were a few great demons that roamed the world. However, it was difficult for demons to cultivate, and they were very rare. Generally speaking, even when the spiritual energy was at its most abundant, there were only a handful of demons that could truly cultivate into a human form. In the current era where spiritual energy was scarce, it was almost impossible to find a demon that had truly attained the Tao for thousands of years. At most, there were those who could not transform into a human form and use some illusions to confuse people. Even if there were such existences, most of them were subdued by some righteous sections. Seeing Li Changxing staring at him, Monk Huaikong immediately raised his eyebrows. This benefactor is young, but he's really handsome. If I'm not wrong, he should be Benefactor Ye's son, right? Ahem. Yi Haoran couldn't help but cough twice. This, Master Huaikong, you're wrong. This is my daughter's friend. Of course I'm not wrong. An awkward look flashed across Huaikong's face before he said seriously, a son-in-law is half a son. I've observed that this little brother will definitely become your Yi family's son-in-law, so it's not wrong to say that he's Benefactor Ye's son. Yi Haoran suddenly understood. Master, you're really brilliant. His face was filled with joy. Even the master said that his daughter and Li Changsheng could be together. That was really too delightful. Li Changsheng was the son-in-law he liked. Let's not talk about these things first. Let's talk about the layout of this courtyard first. The Tian Sha is a very powerful evil spirit that ordinary people can't resist. Even if the Yi family has the protection left behind by their ancestors, it won't last long. Then how can we change the feng shui of this courtyard? Yi Haoran couldn't wait to ask. It's almost impossible to change the feng shui. Once the Tian Sha is touched, it's very difficult to remove it. Then what should we do? Yi Haoran immediately became anxious when he heard this. In fact, it's very simple. You should be glad that you met me. I have a few talismans that I personally refined. As long as you wear them on your body, they can block the erosion of the evil spirit. Under my Buddha's light passport, the evil spirit in this courtyard will slowly be worn away. After 10 years, the evil spirit will be completely removed. Your Yi family will not only not have a disaster in the future, but it will also improve. Thank you, Master. Please give us the talismans. Yi Haoran pretended to kneel down to monk Huaikong. Huaikong hurriedly supported Yi Haoran. Benefactor Yi, you don't have to be so polite. It's just that I can't give you this talisman for free. I heard that Benefactor Yi has a big business in the capital. Recently, I've been planning to enter the secular world to cultivate. I want to have a place to stay in the capital. Okay. Yi Haoran hurriedly nodded. I'll get someone to buy a house for you. Monk Huaikong nodded with a smile. His eyes were almost narrowed into slits. Huaikong took out 3 sewn talismans from his chest and handed them to Yi Haoran, his wife, and Yi Xuan. Finally, he looked at Li Changsheng. Little brother, I'm really sorry. I only made 3 talismans. But don't worry. When I go back, I'll immediately consecrate a talisman for you and get someone to send it over. Master is really merciful. Yi Haoran sighed. It's only right. Monk Huaikong smiled. No need. I don't need your talismans. There's no evil spirit in the world that can infect my body. Moreover, I don't think Uncle Yi and the others need it either. There's no evil spirit in this villa. As soon as Li Changsheng spoke, Monk Huaikong's expression changed. However, before Huaikong could say anything, Yi Haoran had already said, Changsheng, don't be rude to Master Huaikong. Although you're very resourceful, Master Huaikong is more like a god. You've been in my Yi family several times, but you couldn't see the problem with my Yi family's feng shui. However, when Master Huaikong first saw me, he knew that there was a problem with my family's feng shui. The few strange things that he casually said did happen in my Yi family. 1,000-year-old tortoise. The tortoise shell was originally a tool used by the Taoists in the past for divination. For Huaikong to be able to cultivate a favor, he must have lived for countless years. Although he couldn't compare to Li Changsheng, he was still an old monster. With a tortoise shell, he could naturally calculate many things. No wonder he could deceive Yi Haoran to be so loyal. Chapter 694. Upon hearing Li Changsheng's words, Huaikong's face immediately sank. He never thought that a mere mortal would dare to question him. Young man, I know that many people don't believe in the existence of gods and monsters in the world, but that doesn't mean that they don't exist. This villa has offended the heavens, and the people who live here will be corroded by the baleful aura. In the end, they won't live for long. As he spoke, he muttered something, and his clothes fluttered without any wind. Rays of light flashed on his back. If his clothes were removed, one would see a golden tortoise shell shining on his back. This was Huaikong's innate ability, which allowed him to use the tortoise shell to deduce everything. He relied on the accuracy of his deductions to become famous in the capital in a short period of time. Li Changsheng watched quietly with a smile on his face and didn't say anything. Since he could see Huaikong's true form, he naturally knew what tricks he was playing. However, even for a talented existence like Huaikong, this kind of deduction technique could only be used to deduce mortals who were many times weaker than him. Even the most ordinary cultivator would find it extremely difficult to deduce because the path of cultivation was to defy the heavens and change one's fate. If someone else changed their own fate, how could he possibly deduce it? Not to mention a powerful expert like Li Changsheng. After a full 3 minutes, Huaikong's face was covered in fine sweat. However, in his eyes, Li Changsheng's body was covered in fog, and he couldn't find a trace. How could this be? Could it be that you're a cultivator? Huaikong blurted out. This was because only cultivators who defied the heavens and changed their fate were difficult to deduce. That's right, Mr. Li is a Tao expert. He's also very famous in the capital. Yi Haoran was afraid that Li Changsheng and Huaikong would become enemies, so he hurriedly explained. No wonder. Huaikong snorted coldly. So what if you're a cultivator? Haven't you heard of baleful aura? Young man, although we're on the same path, I still have to remind you that you have to be careful. Huaikong no longer sold his consecrated talismans to Li Changsheng as he lectured with the tone of a senior. In his opinion, even if Li Changsheng was a cultivator, how could he compare to a monster that had cultivated for thousands of years? Even though it was difficult for demons to cultivate, and his strength was only equivalent to the congenital realm of human cultivators. However, according to Huaikong's knowledge, congenital realm experts were extremely formidable experts in this era where spirit energy was scarce. I was just being careless, so I don't need you to remind me. However, I do need to remind you not to talk nonsense. Li Changsheng retorted without backing down. Huaikong's face instantly darkened. Yi Haoran was a little anxious. Changsheng, you have to speak properly with Master Huaikong. Oof. Brat, it seems that if I don't show you what a real divine ability is, you won't be convinced. Monk Huaikong suddenly took a step forward and formed a seal with his hands. As he stomped heavily on the ground, it was as if a clap of thunder had sounded out of nowhere, causing Yi Haoran, his wife, and Yi Shuang to feel their heads buzzing. Then, a gust of wind rose from the ground, and a huge tortoise phantom appeared above his head. The tortoise's shell was covered in green hair, and when it opened its mouth, a green light shot into the sky. The moment the green light flew out, all kinds of ghostly wails and howls sounded in the courtyard. In an instant, it was as if they had arrived in a gloomy hell. What's going on? Yi Haoran and his two daughters were completely stunned as they stared at the sky, trembling. These are the wandering ghosts that were attracted by the baleful aura in your courtyard. These wandering ghosts and vengeful ghosts are constantly absorbing the yang energy in your bodies. Now, I'll help you get rid of them completely. Monk Huaikong revealed a smug expression. With a loud roar, the green light swept down, and all kinds of ghostly phantoms were cleansed. A few minutes later, the strange phenomenon in the sky disappeared, and the courtyard became clear again. The warm sunlight shone on people's bodies, making them feel as if it was yesterday. How is it? Now you know how powerful I am, right? Monk Huaikong said proudly. The Yi family of three barely managed to calm their minds, and their reverence for Monk Huaikong grew even stronger. The gloomy feeling just now was a stark contrast to the warm feeling now, and it made Monk Huaikong's image in their eyes countless times greater. Master is very resourceful. You're a true expert, Yi Haoran said with emotion. Yi Shuang kept gesturing to Li Changsheng, hinting for Li Changsheng to say a few words of concession to build a good relationship with Huaikong. However, Li Changsheng only had a faint mocking smile on his lips. What exorcising ghosts? It was just an illusion that Monk Huaikong played. This kind of illusion looked awe-inspiring, but it was actually fake. How could it escape Li Changsheng's fiery golden eyes? At this moment, Monk Huaikong's gaze landed on Li Changsheng. How is it, little brother? Do you still insist on your idea? As soon as Monk Huaikong finished speaking, everyone present focused their attention on Li Changsheng. However, they saw Li Changsheng smiling faintly. Of course I insist. This is just a little trick to deceive others. How dare you make a fool of yourself in front of me? Monk Huaikong's face instantly turned gloomy. Yi Haoran and his family turned pale with fright. Some of them blamed Li Changsheng for being insensible. At this time, he was still speaking arrogantly and offending the expert. It seems that you're very disdainful of my magic. There was anger in Monk Huaikong's eyes as he said coldly, "Little brother, you're also a cultivator. Since you don't like my magic, why don't you show it to me?" As he spoke, he gave a look to a disciple standing beside him. The burly monk took a step forward and sneered at Li Changsheng. "This is my disciple. He has received 1/10 of my true teachings. Do you dare to spar with him, little brother?" "Sure." Li Changsheng had a faint smile on his face from the beginning to the end. The burly monk threw a punch at Li Changsheng from 3 meters away. The fist force brought along a strong wind and surged towards Li Changsheng. Seeing that the punch was so fierce, Yi Haoran and his family were so nervous that their hearts were in their mouths. However, Li Changsheng stood there without moving much, allowing the fist force to hit his body. Bang! There was a dull sound as the fist force hit Li Changsheng's chest. However, Li Changsheng's clothes only swayed a few times. He stood still as if he had taken root on the ground. Your fist is too soft. Why don't you take one of my moves too? Li Changsheng suddenly opened his mouth. Then, he gently flicked his finger forward. Bang! It was like a thunderclap. The fist force instantly hit Huai Kong's disciple. His disciple flew out like a kite with a broken string and landed outside the courtyard. Chapter 695. Brat, you're courting death. When Huai Kong saw his disciple being sent flying by Li Changsheng with a single finger, he immediately flew into a rage. His expression was ferocious as he clenched his fists tightly. His eyes were filled with endless killing intent. He didn't expect Li Changsheng to be so powerful. When he attacked just now, that powerful force even made his heart sway. Changsheng, Master Huai Kong, don't be rash. Let's talk things over. Yi Haoran hurriedly stepped forward to mediate when he saw that both sides were about to fight. At this moment, Li Changsheng waved his hand. The talisman sewn from the 3 cloth bags that Master Huai Kong had given to Yi Haoran's family flew into the air and landed in his hand. A flame ignited in his palm and burned them to ashes. Changsheng, what are you doing? Yi Haoran was a little anxious. Until now, he still treated Huai Kong as an immortal. If it wasn't for the special relationship between Li Changsheng and the Yi family, he would have reprimanded him a long time ago if he was just an ordinary junior. This so-called talisman is just a trick to deceive people. This monk doesn't know anything about feng shui. He only knows divination. When he came in just now, he said that I'm the son of the Yi family. It's because I'm a cultivator that ordinary divination techniques can't calculate the trajectory of my life. That's why he made such a mistake. As soon as Li Changsheng finished speaking, Yi Haoran looked to Huai Kong in confusion. At this moment, Huai Kong no longer cared about the feelings of the Yi family. He just looked coldly at Li Changsheng. The 4 disciples that followed him were actually his 4 sons. It was only to deceive others that they addressed each other as master and disciple. Now that his own sons were beaten to such a state, how could he not hate Li Changsheng to the core? Brat, if I don't kill you, I swear I'm not human. Huai Kong gnashed his teeth and said. The murderous aura on his body continued to rise. You're not human to begin with. Li Changsheng said indifferently, unmoved. It had been a long time since he had seen a monster, especially an old tortoise that had lived for thousands of years. Li Changsheng had heard that turtle shells were good for divination and had a strong defense. He was planning to capture this old turtle and refine it into a magic tool. There was also the fire snake that he had subdued. It had an irritable temperament and refused to be disciplined. If it dared to cause trouble again, he would directly refine it into a magic tool. A 1,000-year-old tortoise and an innate divine object would definitely be able to refine a powerful magic weapon. Die Brat. When his aura reached its peak, a huge tortoise once again appeared above Master Huai Kong's head. The tortoise's body was surrounded by a green glow, and a gust of wind appeared out of nowhere. Yi Haoran and his family felt as if their souls were about to be blown away by the wind. Their faces were pale and their bodies were cold. Seeing this, Li Changsheng waved his hand, and the bracelet on his wrist gave off waves of heat, causing Yi Haoran and the others' expressions to improve. Li, give me your life. Huai Kong finished speaking. The huge tortoise opened its mouth and spat out a green light that shot towards Li Changsheng. Within the green light, there were streaks of black qi, which carried a pungent smell in the air. I didn't expect an old tortoise like you to be an expert in using poison. Li Changsheng could see the poison contained in the green light at a glance. Hee, so you will definitely die today. Monk Huai Kong laughed proudly. Be careful. Yi Shuang shouted anxiously, afraid that Li Changsheng would be injured. Yi Haoran kept muttering, It's over, it's over. However, Li Changsheng, who was facing the green light, did not have any expression on his face. He only said indifferently, "You want to deal with me with a mere poison?" Li Changsheng shook his head. With a wave of his hand, the heart-wishful sword appeared in his hand. He softly spat out a word, "Break." In an instant, the sword light was resplendent and streaked across the sky like a bolt of lightning. The sword light formed by the heart-wishful sword carried a biting cold sword chi and directly slashed down to meet the green light. Under the sword light, the green light was directly cut down from the middle and turned into wisps of green smoke. After shattering the green light, the sword light's power did not weaken at all and slashed on the huge tortoise shell above Monk Huaikong's head. Boom! 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 The huge tortoise was split from the middle, and all the illusions disappeared without a trace in an instant. Monk Huaikong took a few steps back with a pale face and spat out a mouthful of blood. His eyes were filled with shock, and he no longer had the calmness and viciousness from before. There was only fear and terror. However, what was even more shocking was that the sword light still did not dissipate. Under Li Changxing's command, it continued to slash towards Monk Huaikong. Monk Huaikong was scared out of his wits and no longer dared to block it. He directly knelt on the ground with a plop and kowtowed to Li Changsheng. "Immortal Master, I was wrong. Please spare my life, spare my life." Monk Huaikong had completely recognized the gap between himself and Li Changxing. He knew that if he dared to go against Li Changxing again, only death would await him. Therefore, even though he knew that he would die if the sword light slashed down, he still chose not to resist. In fact, he had made the right choice. Li Changsheng did not let the sword light continue to fall. The moment the sword light was about to slash his head, it suddenly dissipated. "Monk Huaikong, let me ask you, did the Yi family's villa offend the heavens? Will the Yi family members' lives be in danger if this goes on?" Li Changxing's voice was like rolling thunder and was incomparably dignified. "No, I'm just talking nonsense. I want to cheat the Yi family of their money and get them to give me the villa in the capital. There's no heavens at all, and I don't know anything about feng shui." "Then let me ask you again. What's your background? Why did you pretend to be a monk to deceive people?" "Immortal Master, my original form is a 1,000-year-old turtle. I was cultivating in a river cave and encountered a bottleneck. Therefore, I wanted to enter the human world to see if I could find an opportunity to attain Tao." "Then let me ask you again. How many demons like you are there in this world?" "I don't dare to lie to Immortal Master. There should be a few hundred demons like me. They are all under the jurisdiction of the Demon Alliance." "Where is the Demon Alliance?" Li Changxing's eyes flickered. He did not expect the demons to have an organization. "The Demon Alliance is built on the sea and is jointly managed by a few demon kings." "All right, that's all I want to ask. Seeing that it wasn't easy for you to cultivate, I'll spare your turtle life. Now, Scram, don't step into the human world in the future. There's a difference between humans and demons. If I see you again, I'll cut off your head and stew it in a pot of turtle soup." "Yes, yes." Monk Huaikong hurriedly got up from the ground and bowed to Li Changsheng. He brought his 3 sons and went outside to help the son that was severely injured by Li Changsheng before fleeing in a panic. Yishuang's family only reacted a few minutes after Master Huaikong left. They had heard the conversation between Master Huaikong and Li Changsheng and realized that they had been deceived. Yi Haoran's face was a little awkward when he thought about how he had asked Huaikong to guide Li Changsheng. He did not expect that he could not compare to Li Changsheng at all. Chapter 696. The matter of establishing a new sect was in full swing. According to Li Changxing's request, invitations were sent to his friends in the cultivation world. On the 3rd day after the invitations were sent out, Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue of Shu Mountain, as well as Elder Yufeng, arrived in advance. The 2 siblings had a special relationship with Li Changxing and helped him with various matters. In addition, several sacred grounds of Wudong, Qingcheng, and Miaojiang had also received Li Changxing's invitations. The cloud-top villa was decorated with festive decorations. A huge plaque with the words Green Sect hung high above the lintel. Two huge black, jade Qilin statues were transported up the mountain by Yi Haoran with tremendous effort. They stood on both sides of the aisle, looking majestic and imposing. Now, Li Changsheng had three main disciples: Zhou Hong, Tong Xian, and Wang Hua. Lu Cheng was appointed as the guardian of the sect by Li Changsheng, and Azu was the hallmaster. These were all the members of Li Changsheng's green sect. They could be said to be two or three big cats. However, the sect master, Li Changsheng, and the eldest disciple, Zhou Hong, were both figures who could hold their own. On this day, Li Changsheng came from Nanyang with more than a dozen disciples. They were all children with cultivation aptitude that he found in Nanyang. However, although these people had the potential to cultivate, they were many times worse than geniuses like Tong Xian and Wang Hua. Li Changsheng checked their aptitude one by one, but in the end, he could only shake his head and let these people be ordinary disciples of the sect. They could not become his disciples. As the time approached, the mountain became more and more lively. You are the first batch of elders of the green sect. In the next few days, I will teach you cultivation methods that are suitable for you. Li Changsheng set up an array formation inside the villa and explained to them the difficulties on the path of cultivation. Ding Qingyang and Ding Qingxue were also lucky to be able to listen. Li Changsheng had lived for more than 10,000 years and had collected countless cultivation methods. Coupled with his rich experience, everyone was improving every day under his guidance. On this day, Li Changsheng, who was preaching, suddenly stopped talking and looked outside the formation. Everyone in the room was puzzled. Li Changsheng slowly stood up and walked out of the array. On the wide road outside, a figure in snow-white clothes was looking at Li Changsheng with a smile. The number one person in the world of cultivation is indeed worthy of his reputation. You sensed me as soon as I appeared. The person who came looked to be in his 20s. His clothes fluttered in the wind, and he had an otherworldly temperament, just like an immortal. However, this was only in the eyes of ordinary people. In Li Changsheng's eyes, the other party's aura was as deep as the abyss, and there was a black fog behind him. You are like an ancient, ferocious beast hibernating in his body, your demonic aura soaring to the heavens. Your Excellency has come uninvited. Is there anything I can help you with? Li Changsheng asked. I have a subordinate who has encountered a bottleneck in his cultivation. So I suggested that he live in the human world for a period of time and comprehend the will of the heavens and his heart in the mortal world so that he can break through as soon as possible. However, he was frightened by you and fled back to the sea. I came to see what kind of person could scare my subordinate into a coward. He is a coward to begin with, Li Changsheng said coldly. After hearing what the other party said, he knew why he was there. It was because of Monk Huaikong. It doesn't matter what he is. What's important is that I'm here today to exchange a few blows with you. Let's see if the number one expert of the human race is stronger, or if I, the Demon King, am stronger. You should be one of the Demon Kings in charge of the Demon Alliance that Huaikong mentioned, right? Your strength is equivalent to the peak of the mysterious finger in our human cultivation. No wonder you dare to come here and behave atrociously. However, your strength is not enough in front of me. Golden Silkworm Demon King's expression changed when Li Changsheng exposed his cultivation. However, being looked down upon by Li Changsheng still made him furious. We'll only know if it's enough after we fight. Golden Silkworm Demon King took a step forward and 6 flying swords appeared behind him. 3 swords lined up in a row and slashed at Li Changsheng. It turned out that the 6-winged golden silkworm had attained the Tao. Li Changsheng recognized the other party's background when he saw the other party make his move. The 6 flying swords were actually refined from Golden Silkworm Demon King's 6 wings. Compared to a sword cultivator's intrinsic flying sword, it was even easier to control. This was because no matter how a sword cultivator's intrinsic flying sword was ultimately an external object. However, since it was refined from one's own wings, it was originally a part of the body. The 6 flying swords flew over with sword chi, but Li Changsheng remained unmoved. When the flying swords were about to reach him, he suddenly punched out. The fist force wreaked havoc and enveloped the 6 flying swords. With a single punch, the 6 flying swords were smashed back. Golden Silkworm Demon King's face turned pale with fright. Seeing that Li Changsheng was about to attack again, he turned into a streak of white light. He actually directly turned into a streak of white light, disappearing into the horizon, escaping just like that. "You're really fast." Li Changsheng felt a little regretful. The 6-winged golden silkworm was the same as the fire dragon bred by the mysterious Yellow Mountain. In particular, the 6-winged golden silkworm was born from the innate Gungjin Qi, which was of great benefit to those who cultivated the sword Dao. However, the 6-winged golden silkworm was also very fast. Li Changsheng knew that even with his current speed, the possibility of him stopping him was very slim, so he didn't chase after him. There was still half a month before the official opening ceremony. On this day, Li Changsheng came to the city after finishing his sermon. According to the information he received, Jiang Tao and the others were now working in the capital. He found Jiang Tao's number from the address book. When he learned that Li Changsheng was in the capital, Jiang Tao immediately asked for Li Changsheng's location. Half an hour later, he drove his BMW 5 Series over at lightning speed. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan are at work. I've already called them. They said they want to ask for leave from their leaders. Seeing Li Changsheng again, Jiang Tao was very excited. He told Li Changsheng that he had bought a house in the capital and planned to settle down in the capital in the future. He also insisted on dragging Li Changsheng to his house for dinner. After not seeing him for so long, Li Changsheng found that Jiang Tao had changed a lot. He was more mature and steady. The only thing that hadn't changed was a sincere heart. Zhang Xiaofeng wore thick glasses. After seeing Li Changsheng, he only knew how to giggle. They also knew a little about Li Changsheng's identity. They knew that the most unassuming roommate in this dormitory was the real boss. When Yang Fan came over, he drove a blue Maserati. Compared to Jiang Tao's BMW 5 Series, he seemed to have made the most progress among the three. Jiang Tao told Li Changsheng that Yang Fan was chosen by the company's CEO because of his ability to do things. He married the company's CEO's daughter. Now, he had worked 20 years less and had reached the sky in one step. He was already the company's CEO. Li Changsheng congratulated Yang Fan. Yang Fan was very modest. He said that there was still a big gap between him and Li Changsheng, but the trace of pride in his eyes could not be concealed. Chapter 697. Jiang Tao was originally a rich second generation. Now, it was said that he was working in a relative's company and was already a project manager. Being related and not being related were two completely different treatments. In comparison, Zhang Xiaofeng, who had the strongest professional skills and was also the best at studying, was still an ordinary employee. Jiang Tao lived in a very high-end neighborhood located in the center of the city. It was close to the subway station and had all kinds of supporting facilities. The only drawback was that the traffic jam was too bad. It was also the first time Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan came to Jiang Tao's house. People were always making new friends. After joining the workforce, everyone had a new circle. Their lives were busy, so naturally, they didn't have much time to gather. If it wasn't for the appearance of Li Changsheng, it was unknown when they would be able to gather together again. Yang Fan didn't know the way to Jiang Tao's house, so he needed Jiang Tao to drive and lead the way. Fortunately, the road here was too congested. The speed was as slow as a snail, so there was no need to worry about losing them. After waiting for half an hour, they finally passed through the crowded road and arrived at Jiang Tao's neighborhood. After parking the car in the underground garage, they took the elevator to Jiang Tao's house. After knocking on the door, a beautiful woman wearing an apron walked in. Littling, these are the brothers I told you about. They are Li Changsheng, Yang Fan, and Zhang Xiaofeng from the same dorm. Hello, come in. Jiang Tao often mentions you guys to me. After seeing Littling, Li Changsheng and the others were a little surprised. Jiang Tao had a girlfriend in school. Li Changsheng and the others had met her before. They were quite familiar with Su Ying, but no one would say anything at this time. How many people in college could have a happy ending in their relationships? Out of the ivory tower, facing a more exciting world, their original ideas were changing. Little Ying's cooking skills are very high. You guys are in for a treat today. After Li Changsheng and the others sat down on the sofa, Jiang Tao took out a bottle of good wine from the cabinet. This bottle is my collection. It's worth 30,000 yuan. Even I can't bear to drink it. The dishes were quickly served. At first, everyone was still a little restrained. After all, Jiang Tao's girlfriend was beside them. However, after a few glasses of wine, they immediately relaxed. When they talked about their years in school, everyone had some feelings. Although it hadn't been long, many of the stories seemed to have happened a long time ago. Changsheng, after you left the capital last time, there was someone who kept asking me about you. How many people have you hurt unknowingly? Jiang Tao suddenly laughed. Who is it? Li Changsheng was a little curious. Linine, her family owns a bar. The last time I brought my colleagues to her bar, her father specially mentioned you. Looking at Lin Yin's attitude towards you, I'm afraid that as long as you agree, she will immediately get married to you. Her father is very fond of you. Tell me, when did you quietly capture the heart of such a big beauty? Yeah, Changsheng, be honest. Zhang Xiaofeng and Yang Fan were eyeing Li Changsheng covetously. If he didn't tell the truth, they would drink him to the ground. Of course not. Although there was nothing between Li Changsheng and Lin Yin, he felt a little guilty for no reason. Jiang Tao's girlfriend, Xiao Ying, looked at this scene with a smile, especially toward Li Changsheng. Jiang Tao's circle was not small, and there were many outstanding young talents and rich second generation with extraordinary family backgrounds. However, in several conversations, she found that Jiang Tao valued Li Changsheng the most, so she had long been curious about who Li Changsheng was. It was just that when she saw Li Changsheng, she couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. He was too ordinary, very different from what she had imagined. However, seeing the happy scene between the three, she thought that perhaps Jiang Tao valued Li Changsheng not because of Li Changsheng's ability or background, but because of their carefree youth. Speaking of Lin Yin, why don't we go to the bar? Zhang Xiaofeng suddenly suggested. I'm afraid you have an ulterior motive. Yang Fan laughed, with a playful expression. What's the matter? Are you two hiding something from me? Jiang Tao looked at the two suspiciously. Zhang Xiaofeng's face turned slightly red. Jiang Tao was now more certain that Zhang Xiaofeng was hiding something from him. It's like this, Yang Fan said. Zhang Xiaofeng wanted to stop him, but it was too late. Xiaofeng's company is not far from ours. One of his colleagues' girlfriend happens to work in our company. I heard that Zhang Xiaofeng has taken a fancy to a girl in the company. That girl especially likes to go to nightclubs, and coincidentally, she often goes to Lin Yin's bar. Zhang Xiaofeng is now a regular at Lin Yin's bar in order to meet her. Is that so? So you have an ulterior motive. Being stared at by several people with playful eyes, Zhang Xiaofeng felt even more embarrassed. For the sake of my brother's happiness, let's go to the bar tonight. Jiang Tao waved his hand and decided. After saying that, he couldn't help but look at Xiao Ying with a guilty conscience. Wife, what do you think? Xiao Ying smiled. Of course. Okay, it's decided. This time, Jiang Tao spoke with even more confidence than before. Then I'll call my wife and ask her to come. Yang Fan said. After saying that, he immediately explained, I'm not afraid of my wife. I just think it's boring for her to stay at home alone. Hey! Several people exclaimed in unison. Yang Fan immediately scratched his head and said righteously, Well, then I'll be honest. If I go to a nightclub, my wife will inevitably be suspicious. If I take her with me and let her supervise me at all times, she can rest assured. Come on, don't just talk. Drink! Drink! Jiang Tao raised his glass. After drinking, he looked at Li Changsheng. Changsheng, what about you? Did you contact by Qianxua later? Nope. Li Changsheng shook his head. Speaking of Bai Qinxue, he still couldn't help but feel pain in his heart, as if it was gently knocked by a small hammer. What about Yi Yue? Yue is studying at Northwestern University. I haven't seen her for a long time. I heard that you had a good relationship with the beauty Wu Xiaowan when you were in school. After you left school, I heard a lot of rumors about you too. Is it true? Jiang Tao suddenly became gossipy. Li Chongsheng got up to pick up the tea and hurriedly changed the topic. Jiang Tao's girlfriend, Xiao Ying, looked curious. From the meaning of their words, this Li Chongsheng seemed to be very popular with women. However, no matter how she looked at him, she couldn't see the charm of Li Chongsheng. Maybe everyone has their own taste. Xiao Ying thought so. Seeing that Li Chongsheng only poured half a cup of tea and the teapot was empty, she hurriedly went to get the freshly boiled water. Chapter 698. They kept drinking until the sky was about to turn dark. Yang Fan drove back to pick up his wife. Li Chongsheng, Jiang Tao, and Zhang Xiaofeng rushed to Lin Yin's bar first. Because they came early, there were not many people in the bar yet. Jiang Tao called Lin Yin and asked her to come to the bar, saying that a mysterious guest wanted to see her. Lin Yin asked, "Who is it? Why are you being so secretive?" Jiang Tao kept her guessing and said, "You'll know when you come." As soon as he hung up the phone, he saw Yang Fan walk in with a girl. When he walked to Li Chongsheng, he put his arm around the girl's shoulder and said proudly, "My wife, Bai Shujie." Yang Fan introduced Li Chongsheng and the others to Bai Shujie. "Hello, everyone." Bai Shujie had heard a lot about Yang Fan's friends in the same dormitory as him. "You're Li Chongsheng? I often hear my Yang Fan mention you. He admires you very much." Bai Shujie was different from Xiao Ying. Yang Fan had already told her about Li Chongsheng's amazing deeds, especially Yang Fan, who liked to brag. According to him, Li Chongsheng was definitely someone who could reach the heavens. "Hello." Li Chongsheng stretched out his hand and shook Bai Shujie's hand gently. Bai Shujie was a little surprised to see that the powerful figure her husband talked about was so approachable. At the same time, she knew her husband's character quite well. She couldn't help but wonder if her husband was bragging to her again. However, this was obviously not the time to question Yang Fan. "Sister-in-law, do you drink?" Jiang Tao asked as if they were close. Bai Shujie hurriedly shook her head. "I've never touched alcohol." "Really? Then how did Yang Fan get away with it?" Jiang Tao obviously knew some of the stories between the two. Bai Shujie immediately glared at her husband Yang Fan. At this time, a figure entered the door and walked straight to them. "Jiang Tao, I wonder which mysterious guest has tricked me here in the middle of the night?" A pleasant voice rang out. It was the bar owner's daughter, Lin Yin. After Lin Yin walked over, her voice suddenly stopped. "Li Chongsheng, is it really you?" At this moment, Lin Yin was completely dumbfounded. "Long time no see." Li Chongsheng smiled faintly. "Yes, long time no see." Lin Yin was silent for a moment before she said, "When did you come back? Why didn't you give me a call so that I could welcome you back?" "Aren't I here now?" Li Chongsheng said with a smile. "How is it, Lin Yin? Are you surprised? Are you surprised?" The relationship between Jiang Tao and Lin Yin was obviously very good. Lin Yin's emotions had already calmed down. She took the initiative to pour herself a glass of wine, then raised her glass to toast Li Chongsheng. "Thank you for last time." Li Chongsheng naturally knew what Lin Yin was referring to. "It's a piece of cake." Lin Yin sat down beside Li Chongsheng. As time passed, more and more people entered the bar. "Look, that's the woman that Zhang Xiaofeng likes." Yang Fan suddenly yelled. A group of men and women walked in from outside the bar. Among them, there was a woman with smoky makeup and an afro. Although her style was very shocking, she was really good-looking. Her name is Wang Li, a new intern in our company. I fell in love with her from the first time I saw her. Since Yang Fan had already pointed it out, Zhang Xiaofeng had nothing to hide. He slowly told the story. "Does she know that you like her?" Lin Yin seemed to empathize with Zhang Xiaofeng's experience. She took the initiative to fill Zhang Xiaofeng's glass with wine, as if saying, "You have a story, I have wine. I confessed to her last week, but she rejected me." Speaking of this, A trace of sadness flashed in Zhang Xiaofeng's eyes. It's okay to be rejected once. Keep up the good work. Lin Yin encouraged Zhang Xiaofeng. Why don't you call her over for a drink? Yang Fan, who had left school and gone through the experience of society, became more eloquent and tactful. Dealing with strangers was his forte. That's not good, right? Zhang Xiaofeng was a little hesitant. What's not good about it? Watch me. With that, Yang Fan got up and walked toward Wang Li, ignoring Zhang Xiaofeng's objection. But soon, he came back with his head drooped. How was it? Did you die before you even got started? Jiang Tao joked. More than that. When I said that I wanted to treat her to a drink, she was still smiling. But when she saw Zhang Xiaofeng, she directly told me to get lost. Xiaofeng, it seems that the possibility of you getting this girl is very slim. I think she really doesn't like you. Zhang Xiaofeng's eyes flashed a trace of sadness. He forced a smile and said, Yeah, I'm just a fresh graduate. I have no background and my business ability is not strong. How could she like me? Sigh. Hearing Zhang Xiaofeng's words of self-abandonment, several people sighed. But what can they say? Love is like drinking water. Only the person who knows the temperature, others can't help much. Zhang Xiaofeng was in a bad mood, so his drinking speed was inevitably faster. Therefore, while others were only in a tipsy state, he was a little drunk. After going to the washroom, he stumbled over to where Wang Li was. Where did Zhang Xiaofeng go? Is he going to confess under the influence of alcohol? Jiang Tao wondered. That's really possible. Yang Fan looked like he was watching a good show. Wang Li, I like you. Even if Zhang Xiaofeng was a little drunk, he still summoned great courage when he said this sentence at this moment. I don't like you. Wang Li shook her head. And I already have a boyfriend. You said last time that you don't have a boyfriend. Wang Li's words were like a bolt from the blue to Zhang Xiaofeng. He reached out and tried to give Wang Li a hug. Just when he opened his arms, a figure suddenly jumped out from beside Wang Li and kicked his lower abdomen. Plop! Zhang Xiaofeng's body fell heavily on the ground. You even dare to have ideas about my girlfriend? It was a young man with curly hair. After kicking Zhang Xiaofeng to the ground, he didn't stop and rushed up to Zhang Xiaofeng to beat him up. On this side, Li Changsheng and the others saw this scene and hurriedly rushed over. Yang Fan and Jiang Tao stopped the man, while Li Changsheng helped Zhang Xiaofeng back to his seat. Wang Li already had a boyfriend, but Zhang Xiaofeng still wanted to hug her. Even if he was beaten, he deserved it. Li Changsheng also didn't want to stand up for him. After Jiang Tao and Yang Fan came back, they also complained to Zhang Xiaofeng. But Zhang Xiaofeng was like a wooden man and didn't refute. He just stared blankly at Wang Li's direction. Looking at his soulless appearance, even Li Changsheng couldn't bear it. There are plenty of fish in the sea. Why hang yourself on a crooked tree? Jiang Tao sighed and patted Zhang Xiaofeng's shoulder. At this time, the man who finished beating Zhang Xiaofeng pointed his finger in Zhang Xiaofeng's direction and cursed something. There were many people around watching the show, but they were quite disappointed when they saw that the two sides didn't fight. Chapter 699. Drinking to drown one's sorrows made one even more sorrowful. Zhang Xiaofeng drank as if he was drinking water. Li Changsheng and the others didn't know how to persuade him. They just looked at him and felt sad for him. On the other side, the man who hit Zhang Xiaofeng was very proud. He held Wang Li's hand and twisted on the dance floor, shaking his head. When people were proud, they would easily forget themselves. Because the man twisted too much, he accidentally bumped into a guy behind him. It was a young man who was as thin as a bamboo pole. After being bumped, he immediately cursed. Probably because he had just taught Zhang Xiaofeng a lesson and felt that he was shining. Wang Li's boyfriend turned around and punched the thin bamboo pole. The thin bamboo pole was too thin and weak. He fell to the ground after being punched. Wang Li's boyfriend didn't intend to let it go. He rushed up and punched and kicked the thin bamboo pole. The thin bamboo pole awkwardly escaped from the dance floor and ran to the door of the bar. He turned around and fiercely said, "You wait for me." Then he disappeared without a trace. Wang Li's boyfriend, Ba, with a look of disdain. His several companions next to him showed a look of admiration, making him feel even more radiant. Lin Yin, who had witnessed everything, said, "That thin bamboo pole often comes to the bar. He has a very powerful brother." Lin Yin just said it casually. Jiang Tao and the others didn't take it seriously. Anyway, it was none of their business. If Wang Li's boyfriend could be taught a lesson, that would be the best. Just now, he hit Zhang Xiaofeng so hard. If it weren't for Zhang Xiaofeng being unreasonable, Jiang Tao couldn't help but hit him. Thin bamboo pole came back. Behind him was a group of fierce-looking strong men. Next to him was a man who looked similar to him, but his body was many times stronger than him. "Who bully my brother?" The man who looked like thin bamboo pole shouted as soon as he came in. The music in the bar was too loud and drowned out his voice. Wang Li's boyfriend was still twisting in the dance floor. He didn't know that someone was looking for him. Thin bamboo pole led his brother to the dance floor and pointed at Wang Li's boyfriend. The man who looked like thin bamboo pole patted Wang Li's boyfriend's shoulder. "What's the matter?" Only then did Wang Li's boyfriend turn around and look at her from head to toe. "Were you the one who hit my brother?" There was a cold smile on the other party's face. "He's your younger brother. What's wrong? So what if I hit him?" Wang Li's boyfriend's attitude was very firm. Bang! The next moment, the other party directly made a move. A knee hit Wang Li's boyfriend's lower abdomen, causing him to retreat a few steps. The other party followed closely behind, grabbed Wang Li's boyfriend's hair, and used his knee to hit him a few times. The dance floor instantly fell into chaos. Although Wang Li's boyfriend seemed to be exceptionally brave when he beat up Zhang Xiaofeng and Xiao Zhuji, at this moment, in the hands of Xiao Zhuji's brother, he had no strength to fight back at all. He was beaten to the point that he hugged his head and squatted on the ground, not daring to move. Wang Li screamed in fright. She wanted to help her boyfriend, but she was grabbed by the arm by a strong man behind her and pulled to the side. Wang Li's boyfriend was also dragged out of the dance floor. "Brat, you've got guts. You even dare to hit my brother. Tell me, what should we do?" The other party picked up a wine bottle from the side. "I think your girlfriend is not bad. Let her accompany me for a night, and I'll let you go. How about it?" Wang Li's boyfriend suddenly raised his head and wanted to say something, only to hear a cracking sound. The wine bottle had already smashed down on his head, making him dizzy. "I'm asking you how about it." The other party's face was gloomy. Okay. Wang Li's boyfriend was completely scared. "Okay, take this little girl away from me." The other party waved his hand, and the strong man pulled Wang Li away. No matter how Wang Li struggled, it was useless. At this time, Zhang Xiaofeng, who was originally watching the scene, suddenly stood up. Ignoring Jiang Tao's dissuasion, he staggered over there with a wine bottle in his hand. "Let her go," Zhang Xiaofeng shouted. "Yo, a hero saving a damsel in distress?" The man curled his lips in disdain. He ordered his men, "Get this girl out of here first. I'll deal with this brat." Zhang Xiaofeng raised the bottle and threw it at the other party. However, because he drank too much, the bottle didn't hit him at all. Instead, he fell on his face with a plop, which immediately caused a burst of laughter. "Friend, with your virtue, don't come out to be a hero saving a beauty." The man, ridiculed, picked up the bottle that fell from Zhang Xiaofeng's hand and smashed it at Zhang Xiaofeng's head. However, halfway through, the bottle stopped moving. He saw a hand holding his wrist, preventing him from smashing the bottle down no matter how hard he tried. "Friend, you don't have to be so ruthless, right?" The man raised his head and saw a very ordinary, smiling face. "Ruthless your mother." The man cursed and waved his other fist at Li Changsheng. Li Changsheng's hand was as fast as lightning. He grabbed his neck and pushed him back against the square pillar. Because he used too much strength, his face immediately turned red. "Beat him!" The group of strong men brought by the man saw Li Changsheng make a move and immediately rushed toward Li Changsheng. "Let me see who dares to make a move." At this moment, a dignified voice sounded. One by one, strong men with rubber sticks surrounded a middle-aged man. It was the owner of the bar, Lin Jinhua, Lin Yin's father. Lin Jinhua was the owner of the bar and had a lot of power on this street. As soon as he appeared, the people on the other side didn't dare to move. The music in the bar completely stopped, and the lights were no longer flickering. They were replaced by bright spotlights. Mr. Li, Lin Jinhua came up and greeted Li Changsheng. Only then did Li Changsheng let go of the man. "How dare you make trouble in my bar? Are you tired of living?" Lin Jinhua said coldly. Lin Jinhua was smiling when facing Li Changsheng, but when he turned to face others, a dignified aura rushed toward them. Being able to run such a big bar in Beijing, Lin Jinhua was not someone to be trifled with. The young man seemed to know Lin Jinhua's identity and immediately wilted. "Boss Lin, they hit my brother first. Is this the reason for you to make trouble in my bar?" Lin Jinhua snorted coldly. The other side suddenly became quiet. "Mr. Li, what do you think we should do?" Lin Jinhua looked at Li Changsheng inquiringly. "Ask them to leave." Li Changsheng was too lazy to argue with them. If they didn't make a move on Zhang Xiaofeng, Li Changsheng would just sit on the side and watch the show. "Get out of here," Lin Jinhua said coldly. The other side felt as if they had been pardoned and fled with their bamboo brother and a group of subordinates. Wang Li stood there in a daze. Her boyfriend's behavior just now was too disappointing. "Actually, Zhang Xiaofeng is a good person and he is sincere to you. You can try to give him a chance," Li Changsheng said to Wang Li and then went over to help Zhang Xiaofeng up. Zhang Xiaofeng drank a little too much. Although he was sober after being beaten up, he still couldn't stand properly. Chapter 700. Zhang Xiaofeng, are you okay? Wang Li stood there and hesitated for a few minutes before walking over to Zhang Xiaofeng. "I'm fine." Zhang Xiaofeng's face was bruised and swollen, and there was a trace of blood at the corner of his mouth. But hearing Wang Li's words still made him very excited. "Thank you for just now." Wang Li handed a packet of tissue to Zhang Xiaofeng. Zhang Xiaofeng held in his hand and only knew how to giggle. "Hurry up and wipe your face with a tissue." Wang Li looked at Zhang Xiaofeng's silly look and couldn't help but be speechless. "The tissue you gave me, I can't bear to part with it." Hearing Zhang Xiaofeng's words, Wang Li didn't know what to say. On the other side, Li Changsheng couldn't help but shake his head. Lin Jinhua also sat down beside Li Changsheng. "Mr. Li, when did you return to Beijing? Why didn't you inform me in advance? I could have treated you well. Thank you for your help last time." Hearing Lin Yin's words at that time, and hearing Lin Jinhua's words now, Bai Shujia and Xiao Ying were a little curious. "Uncle Lin, what did Li Changsheng do to help you?" "I met an enemy that I couldn't afford to offend, and it was Changsheng who helped me settle it. Changsheng is a big shot. It's really an honor for him to grace my bar with his presence." Although Lin Jinhua only said a few words, Xiao Ying and Bai Shujia both had a thoughtful look on their faces. To be able to open a bar in Beijing, Lin Jinhua's ability was unquestionable, and Li Changsheng was able to settle an existence that even Lin Jinhua couldn't afford to offend. This already explained the problem. "Mr. Li, if you need anything else, just let me know. All your expenses today will be free of charge." Lin Jinhua waved his hand. "How can I accept this?" Without waiting for Li Changsheng to speak, Jiang Tao waved his hand. Just as he finished speaking, he waved at the waiter, "Give me a bottle of your best red wine." Suddenly, everyone couldn't help but laugh. Lin Jinhua even slapped Jiang Tao's head. "You really don't need to be polite with your Uncle Lin." Everyone knew that Lin Jinhua was joking. On the other side, Zhang Xiaofeng and Wang Li had walked to the side and were talking about something. Using today's opportunity, it was obvious that the relationship between the two of them would become much closer. However, whether or not it would bear fruit in the end would depend on fate. No one could say for sure. "Mr. Li, why did you return to Beijing this time?" Lin Jinhua asked casually. "Me, I'm preparing to establish a sect and accept a few disciples." When Li Changsheng said that, Xiao Ying and Bai Shujia couldn't help but cover their mouths and chuckle. "What era is this? You're still opening a sect and accepting disciples? Changsheng, don't tell me you're a martial arts expert. Littling giggled. You don't say. Changsheng's kung fu is really powerful. Jiang Tao said. His memory of Li Changxing's strength was still fresh. Even if he is good at martial arts, he shouldn't be able to establish a sect, right? While they were talking, the entire bar suddenly shook. Earthquake. Many people raised their heads in shock, not knowing what had happened. They saw two men fighting in the middle of the dance floor. Lin Jinhua's face couldn't help but darken. His bar had always been known for its cleanliness and good security, attracting many petty bourgeoisie to spend their nightlife here. Wang Li's group was fighting just now, and now someone was making trouble here. If his bad reputation was spread, it would have a great impact on his business. Lin Jinhua gave a look to the brawny man who was responsible for maintaining security not far away. Immediately, a group of brawny men surrounded the two fighting parties. However, these brawny men were all 8 meters tall. As soon as they approached, they were thrown back like sandbags. Moreover, they didn't fall to the ground, but flew 2 meters off the ground and several meters away. At this moment, the whole place fell into silence, comparable to a movie blockbuster. Everyone finally realized that the vibration just now wasn't an earthquake, but was caused by the two fighting and their footsteps on the ground. There's really a martial arts expert. Bai Shujia and Xiaoing both widened their eyes, their faces full of disbelief. Lin Jinhua was also dumbfounded. At the beginning of the fight, nothing could be seen. However, as the fight became more and more intense, they became more and more unrestrained. One of them stomped a palm-sized gap on the cement table, and the table made of steel was also smashed with a punch. It was so fierce that it made people's eyelids twitch. Changsheng, why don't you stop them? Jiang Tao couldn't help but look at Li Changxing next to him. However, Xiaoing pulled his sleeve and whispered, "Are you stupid? Those two people are so powerful, just like human-shaped beasts. Aren't you sending Li Changxing to his death?" Bai Shujia also looked at Jiang Tao doubtfully. However, Jiang Tao shook his head. You don't know Changxing's ability. Although these two people look very brave, if Changsheng takes action, they will be nothing but dregs. Indeed, if Jiang Tao saw such a powerful person in the past, he definitely wouldn't dare to let Li Changxing go. However, the last time, Soul Master Tony was like a ghost, and he still died in the hands of Li Changxing. In the hearts of Jiang Tao and the others, Li Changxing was already synonymous with omnipotence. Jiang Tao is right. In front of Changsheng, they are just ants. Yang Fan also nodded in agreement. Li Changxing's identity as an ability user had always been a secret in the dormitory. However, even if they didn't keep it a secret, no one would believe it. Is he really so powerful? Xiaoing and Bai Shujia both had doubts in their eyes. However, they saw that Li Changsheng had already stood up and walked towards the two fighting people. Although the two were fighting, their eyes and ears were alert, and Li Changxing was noticed as soon as he approached. One of them coldly shouted, "Another brat who doesn't know life from death. Hurry up and scram, or I'll smash your head with one palm." "Yes, get out of here," the other one also said. These two guys had one thing in common, which was that they both gave people the feeling of barbarians. Their fists were as powerful as iron hammers, and they should be masters of the Grandmaster realm. If they were in the secular world, they would be able to move unhindered. This is my friend's place. If you two want to fight, go outside. Also, you have to compensate for the destroyed facilities just now. Li Changxing didn't care about the threats of the two and just said coldly. However, when he said this, everyone around was dumbfounded. The two sides who were fighting stopped at the same time and stared at Li Changxing with disbelief in their eyes. "Boy, what did you say? You dare to use the word get out to us?" "Yes, and you want us to compensate for things. I think you are tired of living. I will give you one more chance. Get out of here right now, or we will kill you first and then compete." Now you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.